What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
8 Shish. Chapter 194 The Horror 3 Deceitful Ships, Tell Moria to Get Out. Advertisement. Brooke collapsed on the ground and howled loudly, Ghost. Everyone. You are a ghost yourself. Howl. Suddenly Brooke panicked. Could it be? He quickly ran out of the room, facing a huge tooth-like wall. How could this be? Is this ship already under surveillance? Brooke looked at the thriller bark in shock, then turned to Luffy and the others and asked, could it be that you picked up a floating bottle from the sea? Ah, that one, I did find it. Sanji nodded. Didn't Khalifa say that Moria used it to target certain pirates? Brooke was taken aback. You know. Of course, we're here to find Moria. Luffy stepped forward at this time and said with a smile, don't worry, I will get your shadow back for you. 0-20 inches. Brooke looked at Luffy and the others suspiciously. Who are you? Luffy chuckled. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. Brooke's mouth grew so big that he nearly dislocated his jaw. Didn't Luffy tell you, we're here to find 7 warlords of the sea Moonlight Moria? Sanji lit a cigarette and said, but this is exaggerated, isn't this an island? Luffy nodded. Moonlight Moria's terrifying 3 deceitful ships, Frankie, didn't iceberg designed to float the capital of 7 waters on the sea, you can learn from it. Frankie's eyes lit up when he heard the words, and he became interested in this island ship instantly. Because with the tsunami of the water gods, the base of the island of the capital of 7 waters has been sinking for a long time. I believe that it will not be long before the entire capital of 7 waters will be submerged in the sea. Bingshan inherited Tom's will and wanted to design a large project that could float the entire capital of 7 waters on the sea. And isn't the terrifying 3 deceitful ship in front of you just a simplified island ship? Hey, Usopp, say hello, Luffy said to Usopp. Usopp took out his slingshot named Do and shot it directly at the dark sky. Kill Firebird Star. A firebird shot out towards the sky. However, after a long time, there was no sound of response from the island. What the hell, don't you think we are some little rich pirates drifting at sea? Advertisement. Luffy frowned and looked ahead. Khalifa pushed his glasses and said, Shichibukai are powerful pirates, and Marines are just tools that they can use. Marines who died in Shichibukai's hands are not a minority. If we don't show enough in terms of strength, I believe that guy will definitely kill us without hesitation. Nani, Nami and Usopp yelled. It seems to be true at this time. Luffy nodded. Let's go to the island, get Brooke's shadow back, and help Zoro get a good knife by the way. Good knife. Zoro suddenly became interested. Luffy chuckled. The legendary black sword used by Ryoma is Chushui of 21 Crafts. How is it? Are you interested? Zoro's eyes lit up when he heard that. Listen, everyone, I seem to be suffering from island insularity. Nami hugged her legs. Chopper looked at the dark and gloomy castle with tears streaming down his face. Me too, I got it too. Moria's subordinates have a transparent person who ate the transparent fruit. Are you sure you want to stay on the boat by yourself? Luffy looked at Nami with a smile. Don't want. Nami screamed and hid behind Luffy, looking around for the so-called transparent person. Sanji had a frightened expression on his face. Nani. The transparent fruit was eaten. I'm going to kill him. Then he clenched his fists with tears streaming down his face. That is the fruit of my ultimate dream, how could it be eaten like this? Zoro complained. Your dream is not to find all blue. Shut up. The transparent fruit is also my dream, if I can eat the transparent fruit, if I can. Woo woo woo. The expression on Sanji's face gradually became obscene. Everyone looked at this guy blankly. Fortunately, he didn't eat him. The melee docked slowly, and dilapidated medieval buildings exuded the atmosphere of a haunted house. Luffy's head was on Chopper, and Nami and Vivi hugged her arms tightly. Khalifa behind her looked unhappy. Hey, you should respect the captain anyway. Robin looked at the shore curiously. She has already cultivated a fearless iron courage with a black belly. Luffy, who was walking ahead suddenly, frowned. Are you looking for death? I saw Luffy raised his finger and shot a finger pistol towards Nami. Before everyone could react, advertisement. A scream appeared out of thin air, and a line of blood fled along the deck towards the island. What happened? Nami hugged Luffy even more scared. Sanji reacted and asked angrily, that's the transparent man. Luffy nodded. That's right. Yes, I'm so envious. Nami. Plus Za. Boom. Zoro dragged Sanji with a bag on his head and went ashore together with Luffy and others. At this time, a stitched 3-headed dog appeared in front of the crowd with its teeth bared and grinned at them. What's this? Sanji asked, frowning. Whatever, chop it up. Zoro drew his knife without hesitation and chopped it out, one knife style 36 trouble wins. The hard-pressed stitching wild dog turned into pieces and flew in all directions as soon as it appeared. What the hell is this? It looks like a hell 3-headed dog, hello. Usopp's legs trembled as he held the cross. At this time, a bad monster flew down from a tree hanging upside down. Hee. At night, the forests in this area will not look like dangerous forests in this world. If you don't mind, you can take my carriage to the mansion. The bat showed a terrifying smile and said to Luffy and the others, Master Hogback's mansion. Luffy had a look of impatience on his face at this moment. Danger. I saw him stretch out his palm, his eyes turned into Rinnegan, Shenluo Tianzhong. The terrifying hurricane rushed directly towards the forest in front of Luffy. Under the horrified eyes of the Batman, the entire dark forest was instantly emptied, and the stumped limbs and arms of countless zombies wriggled around in the ruins. Luffy looked at the ghost somewhere with a sneer. Tell Moria to get out, I'm not interested in playing house with you. The ghost was full of excitement and quickly flew towards the castle in the distance. Advertisement Chapter 195 A Template for Cultivation. Breath of Thunder. Advertisement. What the hell are these? They look disgusting. Nami looked at the broken arm wriggling everywhere and said with disgust. Moria uses Devil Fruit's ability to resurrect Hogback's stitched corpse to create a puppet. Luffy yawned a little bored. This island ship is ridiculously big, and Luffy has no interest in entering it like a customs clearance. Instead of working hard, he might as well study his new random template. After all, he is only here to inform Moria to participate in the Summit War. The new template that Luffy received this time is not too strong, but its cultivation method has a good reference method. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Current loading template. My wife Shani. Equipment. Sun wheel knife. Open black lens bracket innate ability. Excellent sense of hearing, has an extraordinary sense of hearing, can read people's emotions through sound, and can also distinguish between people and ghosts. Breath of Thunder, one of the 5 basic breaths derived from the breath of the sun. Semi-awakened, when you lose consciousness, you will fall into a semi-awakened state, and use 14 to exert the full strength of the body. Skill Move 1. Breath of Thunder 1 Type Thunderbolt Flash, Thunder Breath 1 Type Thunderbolt Flash 6 links, Thunder Breath 1 Type Thunderbolt Flash 8 links, Thunder Breath 1 Type Thunderbolt Flash Super Speed, Close Black Lens Bracket. Skill Move 2. Breath of Thunder 7 Shapes Fire Thunder God, Shani's own exclusive sword type, combined with unique skills created by other sword types. Slashing at a speed that the ghost eyes can't detect, its trajectory is like a thunder dragon flying, and the power is enough to cut off the head of the Shengxian ghost with one blow. Close Black Lens Bracket. Character Reset Countdown. 6 days, 13 hours and 48 minutes. Character Restoration Degree. 100%. This is Luffy's first template that can be restored to full speed after being randomized. At that time, the physical bonus to Luffy after loading the template was simply negligible. Demon Slayer Blade, my wife Shani, one of the supporting actors. Although the fighting screen of Ghost Slayer exploded, there is no doubt that the killing team in the midst of thinking of death has not left the ranks of people. Advertisement. Among them, the physique of the characters is still much weaker than that of the strong in One Piece world. The so-called breathing method is a practice method developed by Ji Guoyuani to greatly improve human physical ability by strengthening the heart and lung function and allowing the blood to obtain a large amount of oxygen in a short period of time. And this method happens to be similar to the second gear mode that Luffy is good at. The difference is that Luffy's second gear is only to improve physical ability, while breathing method can add corresponding attribute attacks. This time, my wife Shani, who was drawn by Luffy, has the same effect as the lightning style chakra mode, which greatly increases the user's speed and strength through the breathing method. What makes Luffy feel pity is that my wife, Shani, didn't study hard when learning the breathing method, and only mastered one move and one form from beginning to end. To put it bluntly, it is to pour all the power generated by the breathing method into the feet for thrusting. For Luffy, the biggest use of the whole template is to increase the speed of Luffy again. Although I haven't tried it yet, with the 6 style shaving and thunder breath, it is enough for Luffy to surpass the lightning style chakra mode he used against Enel. After all, the original lightning style chakra mode was figured out by myself through Rinnegan's control of chakra. Compared with the lightning style chakra mode used by the original Raikage, it is much weaker, and the damage to the body is also much greater. It's a pity that Luffy didn't draw Masaka Makoto's electromagnetic force, and couldn't control the damage to the brain caused by the lightning style chakra mode he developed. Otherwise, relying on Luffy's physique at this time, combined with Marine's 6 style shaved power skills, Breath of Thunder, and lightning style chakra mode, Luffy is confident that even Kizaru can only eat ashes behind his own A. After all, my wife Shani's physical fitness is far worse than that of Luffy, and Thunder Breath theoretically can accelerate infinitely as long as it can withstand the burst of strength. Luffy's rubber body combined with powerful body skills are enough to make Lei Zixie's speed far exceed that of my wife Zenyi. Even the inability to use lightning style chakra mode is enough to keep Luffy as fast as he was against Enel. And compared to the chakra refining method, this template has an advantage that other templates can't match. Hey, Zoro, Sanji, try breathing like me. Luffy greeted Zoro and Sanji. Huh, what breath? Zoro looked at Luffy in surprise. Like this. Advertisement. Luffy began to breathe with a strange frequency as he spoke, and slowly began to spit out hot breath from his mouth. Thunderous electric sparks flickered around the body. Nani? Luffy, you're confused. Sanji yelled, pointing at the sparks on Luffy's body. Luffy. Plus Lu, shut up. Hurry up and learn. Luffy said frantically, there are still 6 days to learn before I send you to S********E Island. Sanji was shocked when he heard this, and Luffy once told him that there is a Ladyboy Island in the Grand Line, and the island is full of perverts disguised as women. Those guys are powerful in kicking, and it is still the territory of Luffy's father's people. But for Nympho Sanji, that place is nothing less than hell. Sanji shuddered, and felt the rhythm of Luffy's breathing. 400 inches oh, feel my blood flow faster. Sanji suddenly said in surprise. Luffy glanced at him with satisfaction. It is indeed the highest masterpiece of Germa 66. As one of the three main players, Sanji is the slowest progress of the three in the original plot, but logically speaking, Sanji has a body of one person. The strongest is right. It was all because there was no cultivation method suitable for Sanji, which led to Sanji being complained about and quit the three major main forces for a long time. Since Luffy became a marine, he has gone through the 6-style training, and Sanji has developed his potential as a genetic warrior to the greatest extent. In terms of body skills alone, even Zoro can't compare with Sanji today. But now the breathing method directly stimulates the acceleration of the blood, which even Luffy didn't expect. And at this time, the clock struck 0 above the castle. Zombies stretched out their arms from the ground, like a horror movie. One after another, ghosts were flying around in the sky, screaming negatively, in their mouths. A huge fat man with a height of almost 7 meters led a group of zombie generals and slowly pressed towards Luffy and others. Hehehehe, I didn't expect to meet the legendary Marine Vice Admiral Monkey D. Luffy, I don't know why you came to my place. He. Advertisement Chapter 196 confused Luffy, Moria who doesn't follow the rules. Advertisement. Hehehehe. At first I thought it was some short-sighted little pirate, but I didn't expect it to be Mrs. Vice Admiral. At this time, Moria, who had become a fat house, stood in the zombie army and smiled at Luffy. Seeing this, Luffy raised his eyebrows. It seemed that it was different from what he thought, as if this guy had no intention of targeting him at all. Gecko Moria, who was once a pirate full of confidence and dreams, even dared to compete with 4 Emperors Kaido. But after being completely defeated by Kaido, Moria seems to have started a bottomless path of funny depravity. Originally, he was also a master of hockey, but as the life of the otaku continued, the originally strong body turned into a lump of fat, let alone hockey, the whole person was almost useless. Even fights rely on collecting corpses, and then use Devil Fruit's ability to use the Shadow Master's combat experience to fight with the corpses. He wanted to build an invincible army of zombies, but he didn't know how the trash that he couldn't beat himself could help him beat Kaido, one of the 4 emperors. And after these years of decadent life, Moria's dependence on her companions is far more than that of other Shichibukai, and basically no matter what she does, she leaves it to her subordinates to do it. This also makes his subordinates quite loyal to him. And Moria himself was also one of the few captains who was willing to venture into the territory of the 4 emperors Blackbeard for his subordinates. Seeing Luffy laughing at him, it hurts a bit. The so-called reaching out and not hitting the smiling face, I originally thought that I would be able to receive Chushui and Perona in my arms openly after Moria made a move. After all, the Chushui of the 21 worker of the Great Quick Sword is also an important prop for clearing Wano Kuni, and the ghost fruit of Perona can be regarded as a relatively buggy existence. And Luffy is also quite interested in the corpses collected by Moria. Of course it's not that Luffy is a pervert, but Luffy thinks that if one day he really wins Orochimaru's template, then Moria's Oz, the great swordsman Ryoma, and Silver Axe, John, and Akoku of the Rocks Pirates are all quite terrifying. Don't look at the absurdity of Kai after being resurrected by Moria. To put it bluntly, it is just a shadow covered with broken flesh and skin. If you really want to bring these horrible guys out of Impure World reincarnation, they will definitely not lose to the Kadri level of the 4 emperors, and even Ryoma and Ozzy can reach the level of the emperor's deputy. Advertisement. However, Moria at this time had no intention of getting rough with her at all, and even led many subordinates to greet her with smiles, which made Luffy, who was about to kill all directions, a little headache. Why don't you pretend you don't know me? Let's touch each other. Luffy tentatively said to Moria. Moria on the opposite side has a confused face. What the hell do I mean? Is my etiquette not in place? Or is Marine trying to kill me? Just touch anything. Now the whole world knows that you are Garp's grandson. I'm impatient to touch you. Luffy Vice Admiral is joking. I am Shichibukai. How could I do anything to you? All we intercepted and killed were pirates sailing in the sea. We have never attacked ordinary people. Upon seeing this, Moria immediately expressed her loyalty to Luffy. And what he said is not a big problem. After all, when Perona first appeared in the plot, she also said that the time to hunt pirates has come, which shows that she did not regard herself under Shichibukai as a pirate at all. I heard that you cut out a lot of our marine shadows. Before Luffy finished speaking, more than a dozen black shadows flew out of Moria and disappeared. It's all a misunderstanding. Quote. This new recruit next to me. General Ryoma on the opposite side fell to the ground with a snap, and the shadow returned to Brook in an instant. The knife. Slap. Luffy. Why? Carrot. MD. I can't find a reason to do it at all. Moria said sincerely, does Luffy Vice Admiral have any other requests? He. Advertisement. Luffy rubbed the corners of his eyes. This guy was too polite. He didn't give himself a chance to get mad at all. Could it be that the Shinluo Tianjung frightened them? At this time, Luffy had no idea that after going through many incidents such as the Barati restaurant vs. Hawkeye, Alabasta, Lock Doll, Enies Lobby, etc., Luffy was no longer the Marine third generation who took the back door in everyone's mind. The corners of Luffy's eyes twitched as he watched, and after putting away the specimens brought by Hobak, Luffy directly led the crowd out of the 3 terrifying ships. Luffy waved his hand helplessly. Anyway, he will be able to see this guy again in Marineford soon, and it will not be too late to take Perona under his command when this guy is abandoned. Blanche. Forget it, you give me part of the remains of the zombie general in your hand. This time, I mainly come to inform you to go to Mariajoy for a meeting. Go and figure it out yourself. Especially since this unlucky guy is about to be expelled from the world government because of his serious decline in strength. The zombies crawled up behind him and began to perform a graveyard dance for Luffy under the flashing neon lights. Behind him, Moria's army of zombies waved a banner and waved a farewell to Luffy. Saying that, Moria snapped her fingers. Watching Moria beckoning on the shore, until the huge tooth portal closed with a bang, the three ghostly ships seemed to see a ghost, and the fast Yongfan disappeared behind the fog of the Devil's Triangle. Luffy didn't slow down for a long time, and finally looked calm. The surface of the sea couldn't help spit out a word. Brook on the side looked stunned and thought it was a terrible battle, but at this time, Gloria, who felt extremely troublesome, was like a small day in front of Luffy. Moria laughed and said, "While Hobuk is going to get you those specimens, Modes, why don't you stay here for a quick meal, and let me treat you well?" Everyone no longer underestimates the soaring Marine Vice Admiral, coupled with the identity of the grandson of Luffy Garp. Ordinary pirates in the first half of the Grand Line dare not fight against him. He. I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Vice Admiral, to inform me personally. Zoro and others looked at it with black lines. What a flexible zombie. You. Luffy raised his hand, and finally put it down weakly. After all, he is a Marine, so I am really embarrassed to continue to embarrass this guy. Zoro put away the knife feeling a little bored, and Sanji relit his cigarette. At this time Khalifa stepped forward and pushed his glasses. It's inevitable, Mr. Luffy's current prestige is not comparable to those young people, so his reaction is natural. Advertisement Chapter 197 Thunder's Breath and Devil's Foot. Advertisement. Yo ho 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 ho, yo ha ha ha, here's to you, Binks, fine wine. The melodious sound of the violin accompanied the singing sounded on the melee. On the bow deck, Luffy took a small stick and knocked back and forth in front of Sanji and Zoro who were meditating. Keep your heart like a shisui. Don't let your breathing rhythm get messed up. Take breathing as an instinct. Follow me, breathe. Streams of white air entered and exited from the bodies of the three of them. It feels amazing. Chopper looked enviously at the few people on the lawn. Why can't reindeer learn breathing techniques? Yo ho 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 ho, although I want to learn, but I have no heart or blood, yo ho ho ho. Brook put down his violin and joked about skeletons. Nami and others looked at the three of Luffy with disgust. Really, what are you doing in such a hurry to exercise? It's rare to have such a peaceful day. Only in this way, we will feel very safe, won't we? Robin came up with a glass of red wine and smiled. Nami nodded. Yes, in the original plot, Luffy consumed a lot of vitality and accumulated terrible injuries because of the second and third gears. The dragon sent the bear to support his son, and the pain and exhaustion were transferred to Zoro. As 523 Shang said, if Zoro accepts this pain, he will definitely die, but Zoro still bears it all without hesitation. So it is a miracle that Zoro, Sanji and other members followed the original pirate Luffy to reach Wano Kuni alive. Luffy believes that it is estimated that Zoro in countless parallel worlds died in this time of the horror of the three deceitful ships. At this time, it is rare to draw a cultivation secret book to become stronger, so Luffy naturally wants to teach a few people before the template disappears, at least to reach the entry level. What makes Luffy feel gratified is that since Zoro and others are countless times stronger than Tanjiro and the others, they can almost easily produce the effect of the breath of thunder. But if you want to change your breathing rate so that it can be used in combat, you need to overcome the breathing habit you have developed over the past 10 years, which is not an easy task. So Luffy has been training Zoro and Sanji since leaving Moria's Devil's Triangle. At this time, the two of them could already enter the state of Thunder's breath while meditating. Advertisement. Next, I'll just demonstrate once. Looking at the two people who entered the state, Luffy slowly stretched out his hand like a knife. He squatted down and put his hands on his waist in the posture of drawing a knife, and there were traces of electric light flashing on his body. Thunder's breath 1 type thunderbolt flash. Swish. Luffy disappeared directly from above the deck. In the next second, it appeared on the sea surface 100 meters away. Nani, what happened? Zoro and Sanji looked at Luffy stepping on the sea in surprise. Sudden. With a bang, a huge chasm suddenly separated on the sea surface, and the 100 meters between Luffy and Melee was instantly split into two halves. Nami and others who were basking in the sun screamed and fell off the sun chair. Nani. What happened? So fast. So powerful. Zoro and Sanji held on to the fence and watched as the waves rolled in shock. When Luffy returned to the Mary, he was greeted by Nami's frenzied fist. Idiot. You almost knocked the Mary over. Looking at the disheveled Nami and the others, Luffy returned to Sanji and Zoro awkwardly, picked up the stick again, and roared. What are you looking at? Hurry up and practice. Zoro. Sanji. Oh. Luffy. North Dish. Brook looked at the happy crowd and touched his skull, which was a space of its own, where the last voices recorded for Laboon by his partners before they died. Now I can send it to Laboon immediately. He remembered that when the Rumba pirates were established, they were not so much pirates as ordinary musicians. The condition for joining my boat is to like music. The Rumba pirates, which can make crying children laugh out loud, have been established. Tears poured down Brook's hollow, skeletal face, as if they were tears from heaven. Hey, Brook, what's wrong with you? Advertisement. Usopp, who was doing push-ups, asked strangely. Usopp's body was too weak to support the cultivation of thunder breathing, so Luffy asked him to do body training first according to the training method of Shanyi and the others at that time. Although weak, the people of Pirate World have their foundations here, especially Usopp, as the son of Usopp, whose sit-up ability is not inferior to the three main forces. As long as he trains properly, it is easy to practice thunder breath. Brook thought of himself drifting alone in the boundless mist for 50 years, and finally burst into tears. Ah. It's so good to be alive. Woo. Ooh, Frankie, who had heard Brook's story before, burst into tears after hearing it. Oh, is this the romance of a man? Nami turned over angrily. These stinky men always have so many inexplicable emotions. But the next island is the legendary the Fishman Island. I don't know what it will be like. Vivi asked curiously. Upon hearing this, Brook rehearsed his greeting after the Kendo mermaid. Beautiful Miss Mermaid, can Fatty let me have a look? At this time, Khalifa pushed his glasses and walked towards Luffy with an orange juice in his hand and said, don't be silly, mermaids don't wear underwear. Sanji, who was breathing in the bow, widened his eyes suddenly, and there was a piercing sound, the whole body flashed with lightning, and a lot of blood spewed out of his nose. With a whoosh, the whole person flew out from the deck as if teleported. Luffy, is this TM breath of thunder type of 1-point nosebleed flash? What hurt Zoro the most was seeing Sanji as if possessed, stepping on moonwalk and driving thunder breath in midair while yelling, mermaid. Mermaid. The speed was so fast that the soles of the feet were wrapped in flames. Luffy couldn't hold back at this moment. Is this how the devil's feet come from? Yo-ho-ho-ho, Brook smiled and sat down on the platform under the mast and fell asleep. He has not slept so leisurely in decades, and every time he sleeps, he always dreams of his dead partner, tormenting him like a nightmare. And every time I dream of my partner getting up, it is a cruel reality and hopeless loneliness. Now he has completely fallen asleep amidst the noise of the crowd. Do skeletons sleep too? Frankie looked curiously at the large bubble on Brook's nose. Luffy turned her head and smiled. The soul also needs to rest. Here, the red line is here. The people turned their heads to look. Sure enough, a sky-high cliff appeared on the horizon. Advertisement Chapter 198 The long-haired Samahata, the mermaid Camie with a strange painting style. Advertisement. Over the terrible snake current. The melee docked below the red line, and the record pointer was pointing directly below the sea surface. How about Luffy? Is it close to naval headquarters in Mariajoy? Nami looked at the majestic red line and asked. Luffy nodded and said to Na am I. Well, Mariajoy has never been there, but there is a high probability that it is directly above this place. We are going to naval headquarters. There should be an official route from Sabaody Archipelago. But Sabaody is not an island and has no magnetism at all. How can we find it? Zoro looked at Usopp who was playing in the man-made pool below. Sanji frowned and asked. Khalifa stepped forward. Do you need me to contact the marine headquarters and ask them to send someone to lead the way? Luffy shook his head. No need. He closed his eyes and sat on the bow of the melee. Take this opportunity to rest for 2 days. Zoro and others were taken aback. Ah, here. Luffy nodded. Don't worry, someone will take us there. Everyone looked at Luffy puzzled, but they trusted the captain after all. Nami stretched his waist. The captain has issued orders, so let's take a good rest. With a plop, Nami jumped into the swimming pool made by number 4 dock and started to play in the water. Seeing this, Zoro didn't refute and ran to the training room of the watchtower, continuing to practice thunder breath while cross-legged while rolling the iron. At this time, he has initially grasped the essentials, but he still lacks to use them in actual combat. After all, he has only studied for 4 days. And Sanji went through that accident. Although Sanji who came back to his senses could not use thunder breath in the battle, he had already grasped the essentials of the demon wind kick that was accidentally used. The most important thing is that with the blessing of the title, the two have trained to the point where they can barely use Haki to harden their bodies. The primary stage of armament Haki was used 2 years in advance. In addition to Luffy's title bonus, Marine 6 Styles, which specializes in developing human body abilities, also provides a lot of help. At this time, Luffy was sitting on the bow, expanding the observation Haki crazily underwater. After adding more than a dozen templates, the scope of coverage of Luffy's knowledge color at this time is particularly terrifying. Even in the water, Luffy can already sense the wind and grass within 5,000 meters. Advertisement. And the reason why Luffy did this is to find the mermaid Camie who should be devoured by the Sea Kings. Due to Luffy's changes to the plot, Luffy and others arrived at the red line earlier than in the original work. So Camie should not be devoured by the Sea Kings at this time, but as long as he stays directly above the Fishman Island, he can wait for that silly mermaid to appear. In the next 2 days, apart from training Zoro and the others, Luffy scanned the bottom of the sea with knowledge. Luffy didn't wait for Camie to appear until the template of my wife Shani disappeared. Could it be that it came too early? Or was it because of the butterfly effect that Camie was eaten by Sea Kings? Or was it captured and sold by human traffickers? After all, Camie was swallowed by Sea Kings no less than 20 times, and was captured by human traffickers no less than 30 times. It is a miracle that she was able to see Luffy and others alive. Originally, Camie was rescued once by Hachi from the mouth of a sea beast, and once from a human trafficker before becoming Hachi's takoyaki clerk. Now that Xiao Ba was directly killed by Luffy in East Blue, it is normal for the butterfly effect to cause Camie to die early. Just when Luffy was about to give up on going to Sabaody Island via Camie, Luffy sensed 3 breaths swimming rapidly from the bottom of the sea. Luffy's eyes lit up, and he picked up Samahata, who was already hairy and curry, and jumped off the melee directly. The shark muscle instantly stuck to Luffy's body, and soon Luffy turned into a half-sharkman and chased after the 3 figures. Sir Luffy, it's time to eat. Khalifa walked out of the cabin holding the dinner plate, but found that the bow was empty at this time. Luffy Vice Admiral. Soon, everyone on board gathered on the deck. You mean Luffy's gone? Nami asked Khalifa. Khalifa nodded. I wasn't on board when I delivered the meal to Chief Luffy. Everyone frowned deeply upon hearing this. For the past 2 days, Luffy had been sitting motionless on the bow of the melee, where he ate and slept and meditated, but now he suddenly disappeared, which made everyone worried. Just when everyone was at a loss, suddenly a huge current surged from the sea, and the melee was shaken by the waves. Nani, what's the matter? Everyone grabbed the fence. Suddenly, a sea beast with one half of a rabbit and one half of a fish was thrown into the sky from the bottom of the sea. Ask for flowers. Advertisement. And the figure of Luffy the Murloc below followed closely behind. Spit it out. Luffy punched the sea rabbit's abdomen, and suddenly 2 black shadows screamed and were thrown from the sea rabbit's mouth and fell towards the melee. And in midair, Samahata separated from Luffy and Luffy became his original form again. Hey, Sanji, braised rabbit head for lunch. Luffy took off his shirt, revealing his lean upper body, shook off the sea water on his body and laughed. However, Sanji didn't react at this time, because he was staring at the falling figure in the sky with red eyes. Ah 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 ah. Camie screamed and threw herself at Sanji. Sanji opened his hands in surprise. Could it be? 0. With a bang, Camie slammed into Sanji's face hard, while Papagu, the starfish wearing a hat, landed smoothly. Yaoshi, stand firm. Papagu shook his limp body like a gymnast and raised his hand to signal. On the other side, Camie got up from Sanji, who had already entered the nympho state, and cheered loudly, panting heavily. It's dangerous. We're saved. It's amazing. It's amazing. Papagu complained frantically. Why are you so excited? You were almost digested. Can't even see such a big sea beast. Sorry. Camie lowered her head in embarrassment. Suddenly Papagu noticed Sanji under Camie. Hey, you seem to have stepped on something. Huh. Camie was stunned and turned her head to look down, and her whole face instantly turned into a ghostly expression. Her eyes and tongue popped out and she shouted loudly. Oh. I crushed a person. I'm sorry. Quote. Immediately Camie grabbed Sanji and shook desperately. Are you okay? Are you alive? At this time, Sanji has completely fallen. His whole body is like mud, with a wretched smile on his face. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's you who didn't fall. Zoro et al. Idiots. At this time, everyone finally noticed Camie's lower body. Nami looked at Camie's flapping fish tail in shock. That is. Everyone. Mermaid. When Camie heard the voice, she turned her head and saw the people staring at her with glowing eyes, and her painting style collapsed again. 2. B. Advertisement Chapter 199 World Nobility. He counts a ball. Advertisement. Female mermaids are famous throughout the world of One Piece for their beauty. Even the pirate queen Boa Hancock feels inferior, and the beauty of the mermaid princess is the apex of the mermaid clan. Mermaids belong to the range of human beings, and belong to the viviparous mammals, and their reproductive and feeding methods are the same as human beings. After the female mermaid is 30 years old, the fish tail will be separated into 2 legs, and most of the female mermaids will go to land and intermarry with human males. Male mermaids cannot turn their tails into legs for life, only female mermaids can. Mermaids intermarry with the same race or murlocs. The chromosomes will be arranged in 4 random ways, and the offspring can be male mermaids, male murlocs, and female murlocs. The offspring of female mermaids and human males will only be human beings, not mermaids or murlocs, but they will be very good at water. At this time, there was a living mermaid sitting in front of everyone, and Sanji was scurrying around on the deck excitedly. Mermaid. 930. The mermaid that people all over the world yearn for. This is the first mermaid I've ever seen in my life. Usopp. Where is Granny K. Keluo? Sanji sad face, Y_LL. Sanji desperately ran to a corner to recover from the wounds in his heart. Luffy took the opportunity to ask Camie. Camie, we want to go to Sabaody Archipelago, can you show me the way? Camie nodded. Yes, lead the way with 500 Baileys. Starfish Papagu bumped into Camie's head all of a sudden. It's not the time to do business, hey. Camie. Ah, wash the motor. Forgot. Everyone. It's natural to be dumb. Camie hopped to the side of the boat and shouted to the sea. Ah. Soon the school of fish was congregating and bouncing back and forth under the Mary. Zoro looked at the densely packed fish in surprise and said magically, oh. Fishing is very convenient. Sanji stared at Zoro's head angrily. Hey. This is Miss Mermaid's friend. How could you think of eating it? Chloral ahead. Soon under Camie's inquiry, the school of fish directly turned into a huge arrow pointing to the west. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in amazement and felt very interesting. Led by Camie, the crowd soon came to the bubble island, which is made up of huge mangrove trees. Advertisement. Everyone looked at the dreamlike bubbles with amazement on their faces. Amazing. Usopp excitedly jumped onto the tree island, and Chopper quickly followed. The rest got off the boat one by one. Robin touched the grass, rubbed some strange mucus secreted by tree sap with his palm, and rubbed it on Zoro's body. Zoro. Hey. At this time, Camie and Papagu jumped into the sea, and said to everyone. There are more than a dozen underworld kidnapping groups nearby. Human trafficking is very popular in the Sabaody Islands. Camie is a hot commodity as a mermaid, so we won't go to the island with you. Sanji frowned and lit a cigarette. Is it human trafficking? It's really too much. Nami is also full of disbelief. Isn't human trafficking illegal? Camie lowered her head in frustration, and Papagu didn't dare to speak anymore. At this time, Khalifa pushed his glasses and walked up to explain. There will be buyers only when there are buyers. The 10 layers of world nobles headed by the Wylong people are secretly supporting the population of the Sabaody Archipelago. The largest human population auction site should be related to the legendary 7 warlords of the Sea Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo. Everyone's face was a bit ugly when they heard the words. Vivi looked at Khalifa in disbelief. How could it be? Isn't this place very close to naval headquarters? How could human trafficking happen right under our noses? Luffy said calmly. This is the reality. As a violent law enforcement agency, Marine cannot do without economic support. Without the support of celestial dragons and world government, I am afraid that the huge consumption will not last for a day. Quote. In order to maintain world peace, it is inevitable to make certain concessions, and there is no way around it. After all, if there is no Marine, the damage to ordinary civilians will be even more miserable. When everyone heard this, their faces were so ugly that they were about to die. This sacrifice for peace. Damn the nobles of the world, obviously their money is also obtained by squeezing the common people. Nami shook his fist angrily, then thought of Vivi next to him, and smiled awkwardly. Haha, Vivi, of course I am not talking about a good noble like you. Vivi shook his head. It doesn't matter, our Neferutari family voluntarily gave up their status as world nobles to establish Alabasta. Sanji. Long live Vivi. It is precisely because of this that the power of the Revolutionary Army has developed so rapidly. Luffy laughed when he heard this. Why are you so happy to hear the development of the Revolutionary Army? Isn't the Revolutionary Army Marine's biggest enemy? Robin asked strangely. Didn't I tell you? The leader of the Revolutionary Army is my cheap father. Luffy looked at Robin strangely. He clearly remembered what he said before. Did he remember wrongly? Everyone. Quote exclamation mark question mark quote. Advertisement. Well, it's not a big deal anyway, ha ha ha. Luffy laughed out loud. Everyone looked at Luffy with pain. Grandpa Marine, Big Brother Pirate, Daddy Revolutionary Leader, the whole family is complete in black, white and gray, scary. Hey, Camie, do you like the Sabaody Land Park on the Sabaody Archipelago? Luffy smiled at Camie who had jumped into the water. Camie suddenly showed excitement. Really? Papagu hurriedly stopped. Hey, Camie, have you forgotten the previous lesson? There are many world nobles here. Seeing this, Luffy sneered. A nobleman in the world. He is a ball. Don't worry, no one will dare to touch a single hair of your hair with me, Scales. Reintroducing, Monkey Luffy Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. Camie was instantly shocked. Nani? Marine. Papagu still shook his head. Even if you are Marine Vice Admiral, those world nobles have the authority to dispatch Admiral. What are you worried about? Luffy laughed, and directly reached out to fish Camie out of the sea. Haki waved his hand. Even if Marshal Marine comes, I will keep you safe. Really? Camie asked with surprise on her face. Papagu on the side hesitated. Even if you say that. In short, Frankie parked the boat at the Marine base here first, and the rest of us had fun with me, and then we went to Naval Headquarters. Luffy said to the crowd irrefutably. 2.2 Starfish Papagu finally agreed to Luffy's plan, but he asked Camie to wear a skirt so that everyone could wear it on their backs to prevent the identity of the mermaid from being exposed. After all, the mermaid slave has already been fired to an extremely terrifying price. Luffy didn't comment on this, and handed Camie to Sanji. After all, this guy will definitely protect Camie every step of the way, and he is not too tired. By the way, Ace seems to be sent here by me. I remember Rayleigh's bar is on the 13th island. Luffy clapped his hands and suddenly thought of his cheap brother. Let's go there first. After all, now that Blackbeard has become a Shichibukai, it seems inappropriate to turn off Ace. Island 13. That seems to be an illegal area, right? It's dangerous for you Marines to go there. Papagu looked at Luffy in surprise and said. Luffy waved his hand nonchalantly. Danger. Hey, we are the biggest danger. Advertisement chapter 200 Let me kneel down. It won't work if IM comes. Advertisement. Duh. At this time, everyone frowned and looked at a broken tree island. Are you sure you sent Ace here? Nami asked Luffy suspiciously. Luffy also looked confused at this time. At this time, Tree Island number 13 seemed to be the Syria Y battlefield. The huge mangrove tree with 13 printed on it was broken in half at this time, and the soil attached to the root system was torn. The bricks and bricks of the building country. I boil. Luffy took a breath and spit out 2 words. How dare anyone dare to attack Pluton Rayleigh? With thoughts full of doubts, Luffy had no choice but to lead everyone back. Anyway, he did not plan to worship Rayleigh as his teacher. As a Marine, he and this guy are not in the same camp. Is it really all right? Usopp asked Luffy. Luffy waved his hand. It's not a big problem, as long as it's not caught by Blackbeard. Everyone tidied up their mood and began to feel this dreamlike island seriously. Bubbles flying everywhere seemed to bring everyone back to childhood. Amazing. Chopper slipped into a bubble, and Usopp 14 lifted the Tianhu as lightly as a balloon. Chopper sticks the deer's head out of the bubble, without bursting the bubble. Usopp led Chopper to run wildly all the way on the island, and the joyful laughter of the two made everyone smile unconsciously. Plop. Usopp lost sight of the road and bumped into a huge figure with chains. Sorry. Usopp and Chopper hurriedly stood up and bowed in apology. However, the strong man grabbed Usopp by the neck and shook Usopp with red eyes, shouting, take it off. Please, take this off. Usopp. Huh, I want to go home too. The strong man yelled in fear. A flash of sword light flashed, and Usopp, who was almost suffocated, fell from the strong man's hand. Advertisement. You don't look like you're begging for help. Zoro put the knife back into its sheath and said coldly. Usopp touched his neck, and took a few steps back on his stomach. I'm scared to death. I beg you, no matter who you are, no matter what you use, whether it's a saw or an axe, help me, take off the collar. I just want to destroy the collar, I won't hurt you. I have given up on going to New World. There is still a wife and children waiting for me in my hometown. I want to go home. When I went to sea to become a pirate, my child was just born. That child must not know what his father looks like. The face of Usopp who fell to the ground suddenly became gloomy, and his sympathetic eyes looked at the pirate captain now full of contempt. Usopp's father, Usopp, left his wife and children to become pirates when Usopp was just born, and Usopp's mother had to rely on one person to support the child no matter when Usopp was confinement or when Usopp was a baby. The old disease left on his body and longing and hard work directly led to the death of Usopp's mother when he was young. If it weren't for Kaya's salvation, what Usopp would have become at this time? Seeing the pirate now using his wife and children as an excuse at such a moment, Usopp's eyes are full of contempt. Then he pulled Chopper back to the back and watched coldly. Starfish Papagu looked at the collar on the strong man's neck and his face changed drastically. Don't get involved with him, that guy is probably a pirate who was caught by a kidnapping group and sold. He was taken to this island by the buyer to escape. Everyone frowned when they heard the words. Although everyone didn't sympathize with the pirates at all, they didn't have a good impression of the traffickers either. At this moment, the collar on the pirate's neck began to ding-ding. The surrounding townspeople unanimously began to retreat. What's wrong? Nami asked, looking around strangely. Khalifa pushed his glasses and explained. In order to prevent trying to escape, the collars around their necks are all pressed with bombs, which will detonate 10 minutes away from the master's election. Bomb. Nami looked at the slave in surprise. With a rush of bells and a bang, the explosion submerged the pirate slaves. With a thud, the slave directly fell down in the dark. The changes on the pitch-black face prove that the slave is not dead yet. I will never be a pirate again. Tisk tisk, the power doesn't seem that great. Luffy rubbed his chin and studied. It's scary already. Nami hid behind Luffy in fear and said madly. Chopper's terrified tears were about to flow out. What's going on in this town? Papagu yelled at Camie with a livid face. Camie, hide quickly. The celestial dragons are nearby. Advertisement. Hurry up and get off the bubble car. Celestial dragons are coming. Papagu anxiously yelled at Luffy and the others. But at this time, a dog with a fish tank came swaggeringly from the end of the road, and everyone knelt down on both sides of the road in horror, bowed their heads and did not dare to make a sound. Papagu was so frightened that he lay down on the ground like a starfish. Zoro frowned and looked at the kneeling crowd. What are they doing? Sanji lit a cigarette and shrugged. Who knows? Nami tugged Luffy from behind. Luffy, do we want? Khalifa also came forward to ask what Luffy meant. After all, even CP0, the superior of CP9, is just a dog of celestial dragons. Papagu shouted anxiously on the ground. Hurry up. Those are celestial dragons, descendants of the creator. Luffy laughed out loud, and said solemnly to Nami and others, remember, there is no one in this world who can make me kneel, Luffy, even if I am comes. Following Luffy's declaration, a huge conqueror's haki spewed out from Luffy's body, and the terrifying haki swept across the entire 033 number 31 tree islands in an instant. In the Sabaody Archipelago, countless eyes looked at the island where Luffy was. There are also many figures in the depths of the sea looking up. In the slave auction house, a drunk with a diary looked up and muttered, interesting. And many islanders on the 31st who were kneeling to greet them immediately rolled their eyes and fell to the ground. Also down were the two celestial dragons who had just emerged from the end of the street and their followers. Except for Luffy and others, the entire island only has the pirate captain Jambaloo who was originally led by the Roswald Sanctuary of Celestial Dragons. He looked in the direction of Luffy in shock, covered in cold sweat, unable to move. Hee, as expected of someone Luo received under his command, his willpower is pretty good. Luffy looked at Jambaloo and smiled, then waved to everyone. Let's go, and I'm in a bad mood when I encounter garbage when I go out. Then he took the lead and walked towards the next island, kicking the celestial dragons as he passed by. Jang Baru was so frightened that he almost passed out. Zoro and others followed Luffy silently and continued to walk forward. At this time, Camie and Papagu almost stared out their eyes. Luffy turned to look at Camie and comforted him. Don't worry, no one saw it anyway. Do you want to kick your feet to relieve your anger? I heard that many of you mermaids have been captured as slaves. Camie shook her head frantically when she heard the words. Advertisement Chapter 201 Crazy Sengoku. Advertisement. At this time the Holy Land Mariajoy. Garp, look at your wonderful grandson. Sengoku angrily threw over a report, beat the celestial dragons. Fortunately, it was our marines who discovered it first. Let's fight. There is only one person left to prove the pirate. Don't you think we are not troublesome enough now? Sengoku banged on his desk angrily. PFF'd ha ha ha. Garp laughed while clutching his stomach, as expected of my grandson. Garp, you're enough. Sengoku looked at his old buddy frantically. If it wasn't for finding a pirate top tank and perfunctory, those guys would call us Admiral. It's very troublesome, do you know? Especially not long ago there was a big battle in the Sabaody Archipelago, even Tree Island 13 was destroyed, and the Whitebeard pirates disappeared again, probably living on the Fishman Island or somewhere under the sea. Your grandson is still messing with us at this time. Really? Sengoku sat aside angrily. Sengoku, I brought new tea, hurry up and get out the senbei. Garp changed the topic to Sengoku while holding a bag of tea leaves. Sengoku. Oi. Garp buttoned his booger impatiently and said, what are you afraid of? That group of trash dare not do anything. They're just trash from the higher-ups withdrawing to attract hatred. If the celestial dragons are all idiots of the same line as Rhodes World, and they don't need to rely on Monkey D. Dragon to make a revolution, then Marine probably can wipe out this group of drunkards and re-establish the regime. As we all know, the original 20 celestial dragons royal families except the Vivi Ferudali family left 19 celestial dragons families. The smart celestial dragons naturally continue to develop their own strength and accumulate wealth, and by the way, push this group of wastes who are blinded by power out of the foreground as targets to attract hatred. In this way, the safety of the celestial dragons family hiding behind the scenes is naturally guaranteed. After all, in the Battle of the Valley of the Gods, the actions of rocks almost cost celestial dragons a lot. They can no longer believe that their identity as the descendants of the Creator alone can protect their own safety. And the repentance of celestial dragons Don Quixote Muscarutson who was beaten by the Fishman Island shows that not all celestial dragons are as stupid as the Rhodes World family. So Garp is not worried at all about celestial dragons daring to attack Luffy. After all, the authority of the Rhodes World family is to use marine protection. Just kidding, Luffy is the highest marine general other than Marine Admiral, plus Garp's and Sengoku's backstage, it's not uncommon for celestial dragons marine to talk to them. At this time, Luffy and others have arrived at number 33 Sabaody Park. Amusement Park. Amusement Park. A group of people walked on the road of the playground with great fanfare and cheered. Advertisement. The high-profile behavior made passers-by look sideways. As that, a straw hat. Monkey D. Luffy Vice Admiral. The one next to you is the legendary pirate hunter Colonel Zoro, right? Really? The newspaper says the Marine who is the least like a Marine. Defeat K. Lockdoll, reveal the truth of the world government, and fight against the Akatsuki organization CP9, the Straw Hat Marine group known as Marine Prosecutors. Amazing. I saw a real person. Is that Major Nami the Navigator? I heard that Vivi is the Princess of Alabasta, and she is willing to live under the command of Luffy Vice Admiral. Damn it, I want to ask them for autographs. The people of Sabaody Archipelago looked at Luffy and others with envy and said excitedly, whispering to Luffy and others, making Nami and others hold their heads high. Sanji stared at Zoro with displeasure. Why are there so many people talking about UB ****************? Zoro raised his head triumphantly. This is probably the difference between the deputy captain and the cook. Nani. Sanji was furious instantly. Thunder's breath thunderbolt kick. Hit your sister. The two immediately fought together. Nami walked in front of the two with the veins on his forehead exposed, punched them directly on the head with 2 punches, and turned into a demon and roared at the two. Be quiet. Can't you see that everyone is looking at us? It's Marine. Don't tarnish my glorious image. Everyone. Do you still use discredit like this? Oh ho. It's Sabaody Land Park. Usopp pointed brightly at the giant roller coaster eyes ahead of Bowling. Ah, the Ferris wheel. This is the first time I've seen it so close. Camie, who was behind Sanji, suddenly lost her style and shouted with her eyes shining. Yaoshi. Let's play. Luffy yelled, throwing his hands up. A group of people rushed into Sabaody's park in a swarm. At this time, Sanji frowned and walked up to Luffy. Luffy. Ah, I've been following us since Tree Island on the 13th. Luffy nodded, with a strange look on his face. I didn't expect this group of guys to be really bold enough, even the people I brought make up your mind. Sanji smoked a cigarette. Do you want to do it? Advertisement. Don't spoil everyone's interest. Wait for them to attack first. Just clear the Sabaody Archipelago. Luffy stole from Sanji's pocket and lit a cigarette. There is still an illegal area under the eyes of Mariajoy and Naval Headquarters. It's too shameful. Yes, it happened to be cleared up. Luffy. What are you two doing? Hurry up. Nami turned back and waved to Luffy and Sanji at the door. Oh, Nami-chan, I'm coming. Sanji rushed in quickly. Luffy touched his nose and sighed. Licking a dog is a lonely life. Then followed. In the following time, Luffy and others led Camie, who only dared to peek from the beach at night, to play all the games. At the end Camie sat on her dream Ferris wheel. Nami smiled and comforted Camie. Are you so happy? I cried with joy. Sanji just put it away, and said, it's because of the traffickers. Watching the fantastic Ferris wheel in the sea every night. Camie nodded sadly. Seeing Camie chattering excitedly, both Nami and Sanji fell silent. Guy, good money good, wiped away his tears, and thanked Luffy excitedly. This is the first time I see the scenery from such a high place. This will be a memory of my life. Thank you. It's all because Luffy is very strong. I will be allowed in. Sanji took out a cigarette and wanted to light it, but Nami punched his bag. Pay attention to the occasion. This is in a bubble. Luffy looked at the majestic red line not far away. Marineford, after the Summit War, the world government should be worried, right? Originally, he just wanted to enjoy himself in the pirate world by virtue of his identity and cheating, but now he has laid many hidden games for himself without knowing it. Luffy shrugged. This is the reality of the pirate world, a cruel reality that even a powerhouse of Garp's level cannot change. Eat. Very good. Let's go take another roller coaster ride. Luffy laughed twice, and the sky wheel slowly fell to the ground. After all, it's great. It's amazing. It's so high. Camie's eyes gradually filled with tears, and I can see the wind like this. Papagu also said. After all, mermaids are extremely rare slaves even in the eyes of the world's nobles. Although it is not illegal to catch pirates and sell them into slaves, once they are caught, whether they are pirates or not is illegal. Traffickers have the final say. Camie said with tears in her eyes. Because, this is my childhood dream. With the strengthening of Luffy's strength and personal experience, Luffy's mentality has changed a lot. Advertisement Chapter 202 Clear the lawless place and meet the celestial dragons again. Advertisement. Mr. Peter Man, are we really going to do this? That's Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. Two doll bears in Sabaody Park are whispering to each other. Oh, mermaids are a once-in-a-century opportunity on land, because we can't catch them in the sea. The sinister voice of the giant bear doll came. What about Marine Vice Admiral? We have that heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo behind us. Besides, as long as you don't get caught, so what if you're Marine Vice Admiral? Speaking of which, the giant bear doll took the balloon and walked towards Camie who was resting on the bench. Zoro, who was resting, frowned, and he felt a malice moving towards Camie. Zoro was about to get up when Luffy pushed him down. He turned his head and found that Luffy and Sanji were standing behind him. Who is that? Zoro asked strangely. Human traffickers. Luffy narrowed his eyes. Zoro was taken aback. Why don't you hurry up and stop him? Luffy looked at the approaching big bear and said coldly, we need a reason. Reason. The reason to wipe out the lawless area. While speaking, Camie was attracted by the balloon in the hands of the big bear doll, and was about to thank him, when a big sack directly covered Camie. Then Big Bear covered Camie's mouth and quickly ran out of the amusement park. Sanji, follow slowly and keep Camie safe. Sanji nodded, and disappeared straight away from where he was. Sanji, who has awakened and knowledgeable, followed a human trafficker 220. It's not too easy. Zoro. Luffy subconsciously wanted to ask people to go to Marine Base to shake people, but suddenly realized that Zoro's road crazy attribute estimated that he would not be able to find Tree Island number 60 where Marine was located until next year. Zoro. What am I doing? Luffy, you follow me to kill people. Zoro grinned. I'm good at this. Soon the rest found Camie who had disappeared. Starfish Papagu yelled in horror. Camie. Camie. Sure enough, I shouldn't have brought her to this playground. Huh, she must have been taken away by human traffickers. Nami also hurriedly asked Luffy. Don't worry, you probably haven't gone far yet. At this time, Khalifa ran out from nowhere, pushed his glasses and said, I have already contacted the Marine station here, and I believe that support will arrive soon. Luffy nodded in satisfaction. Sure enough, Khalifa, as a secretary, can really make the superiors feel at ease. Robin didn't panic at all. It was obvious that Robin, who had been on the run cautiously for a long time, knew about Luffy's plan a long time ago. Advertisement. Luffy took the lead and walked towards the direction of Island 30 when he came. The crowd quickly followed. 24GR Tree Island serves as the only supply depot on the Isle of Lawlessness. The island gathers all the supernovas from the first half of the Grand Line. Monk Yoroj is right. Look, a pirate in a gray bucket BEFG, Hood said to the strange Monk Yoroj. Yoroj turned his head to look. Oh. A celestial dragons wearing a fish tank and white robes who looked like fat pigs rode a pirate slave among the kneeling crowd. Also holding two slaves in songstress costumes in their hands. Followed by World Government CP5 officials and 3 guards. Celestial dragons. Yoroj frowned. It's such a troublesome race to be so reckless in the lawless area. It seems that we can only kneel down and wait for him to pass first. The pirate slave struggled to crawl on the ground. His sweaty body and trembling hands made him look particularly miserable. The celestial dragons on her body sniffed the snot like a mentally retarded person, and said dissatisfiedly, Where did Shah Lulia Palace and father leave me? I have their final destination in my hands, please rest assured, said the CP5 officer behind him, speaking to celestial dragons. Huh. Charles Ross looked down, raised his heels and kicked the slave's head frantically. B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* And shake so badly. Riding you is terrible brilliant. UB asterisk 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 D is infuriating. At this time, he didn't know that his father and sister had been carried away by Marine's people and sent back to Mariajoy. Bang bang bang. Celestial dragons kicked the slaves under them, venting their dissatisfaction. At this time, several doctors and nurses who were carrying stretchers to the patient urgently ran past the front. Charles Ross was taken aback, his eyes widened in an instant. Hey! You bastards, stop for me. The medical staff stopped suddenly, only to find that the residents kneeling on the ground and the celestial dragons walking on the street were sweating instantly. Charles Ross Street came off the slave, walked towards the patient carrying the stretcher. A mere human. How dare you dangle in front of me? Charles Ross shouted dissatisfiedly, walking to the stretcher step by step. Hug, there was a burst of panic, please let us go. We are a critically ill patient with severe bleeding, every second counts, and the hospital is right in front of us. On the stretcher, a comatose man covered in blood was panting with difficulty. Huh, celestial dragons looked down, really, this is not allowed. As soon as the doctor breathed a sigh of relief, he heard celestial dragons continue to speak. Hurry up. Celestial Dragon stretched out its foot and kicked the patient's bleeding head. Help him out. With a bang, the patient was kicked and died on the spot. The nurse was so frightened that she sat down on the ground. Hey, I really do whatever I want. Yoroj, a strange monk in the distance, grinned while carrying a huge iron pillar. Advertisement. Among the crowd, Kid, Derake, Luo, Apu, Kira, Jewelry Bonnie, Capone Beige, some were hiding on the street corner, some were kneeling in the crowd, with different expressions, some were frowning, some were expressionless, some dismissed it, some were eating, but no one dared to make a sound. At this moment Charles Ross turned to the government official and asked, which is more important to my manners or the lives of the untouchables? The official wearing sunglasses bowed his head and complimented. The celestial dragons are pariahs, so of course it is more important for your etiquette. At this time, Charles Ross suddenly looked at the fallen nurse, his eyes widened suddenly, showing a picture of Brother Pig. Yo ha ha. Charles Ross took 2 steps and squatted down, staring at the nurse's body, then stood up and walked around the nurse a few times. Yaoshi, let you be my wife. Charles Ross clapped his hands. Ah, the nurse exclaimed. The officials beside him responded immediately. Hi, then I will go through the formalities for your 13th wife to enter the Holy Land immediately. Ah, Charles Ross nodded. I'm tired of wives number 1 to number 5, so I'll let them be pariahs for you again. Hi, the government official bowed. Thank you for your reward, my lord. The nurse looked terrified after hearing this. Please wait a moment. Before finishing speaking, a man wearing an apron ran over on the street next to him. Please wait a moment, that's my maiden. Boom. A gunshot rang out, and the man fell to the ground before he could finish his sentence. The crowd around screamed. I saw Holy Charles Ross holding a smoking blunderbuss and said angrily, another person standing in front of me who does not observe etiquette. The nurse's eyes widened instantly and she stood up and wanted to rush over, but was stopped by the officials. Ah, the nurse cried out heart-rendingly, he murdered in a grand manner. What kind of aristocrat is this? Who will save him? Save him. The crowd kneeling on the ground turned their heads away in shame, not daring to look at the scene in front of them. Yoroj, a strange monk in the distance, smiled and said, it's even more messy than the rumors. What? Charles Ross suddenly poked his head in front of the nurse, are you complaining about me? Afterwards, he took out the short gun and fired a few shots at the man who fell to the ground. The man twitched for a while and then fell silent. Well, the nurse covered her mouth, tears flowed from her eyes, and her face was full of horror. Charles Ross Saint laughed and ordered the guards to catch the nurse. Bring her to the port. Yes, the CP5 officer immediately waved for the guard to lift the nurse up. And at this moment, the crowd and the supernova suddenly opened their eyes wide, and looked behind the celestial dragons in shock. What's in the way? Here. Advertisement Chapter 203 The terrifying Zanpakutō, as expected, he still wants to convince others with virtue. Advertisement. Bang. Charles Ross flew upside down, and the glass fish tank above his head shattered instantly. All the people present stared at the flying celestial dragons with staring eyes. See, Marine, I saw that Luffy was wearing a cloak of justice, and his palms were still in the motion of slapping mosquitoes. Zoro and others behind him also wore the cloak representing the Major, followed by a large number of Marines who were ready to go. Nami, Vivi, Usopp and a large number of Marines stared at Luffy with wide-eyed eyes. Eye blanch. Those are celestial dragons. Zoro looked around indifferently, looking for criminals hiding on the island. At this time, Zoro's cloak was already stained with blood, which proved that the group's arrival here was not as simple as imagined. And Luffy seemed to have just realized it at this time, and walked up to the celestial dragons whose faces were dented and shouted in shock, I'm so stupid. Who is the FK? Let the noble turtles of the world, the descendants of the creator beat it like this. Lawless, it's too much. Come here. Don't arrest all the pirates and criminal groups on this island. Luffy shouted, pointing at the kneeling pirates in the crowd. At the same time, he said to the nurse and his fiancée who fell to the ground, didn't you see the innocent civilians were injured? Come, send them to the hospital. Today I must bring to justice the guy who beat celestial dragons. Who is that? Chopper, hurry up, what are you waiting for? Didn't you see that this beautiful nurse is about to cry to death, and her fiancé is about to die? Luffy pointed to the man who was injured by celestial dragons and said. Chopper came back to his senses, and ran to the wounded on Karji's hoof to treat the wounded. At this moment, CP5 finally reacted, and he roared at Luffy loudly, hey. B******************************************** D. Do you know what you are doing? Beating celestial dragons is a death penalty. Admiral will come and kill you himself. Huh. Luffy squinted at CP5, slowly pulled out a long knife from his waist, pointed at CP5, and sat in the frosty sky. Hyōrinmaru. I saw an iron chain growing from the end of the simple long knife in Luffy's hand, and a crescent-shaped blade at the end of the iron chain. The iron chain at the end of the knife slowly entangled the black-clothed official. Nani. The face of the CP5 official changed drastically. What are you doing? I am the world government. However, before he finished speaking, the air around him suddenly became cold, and the moisture in the air began to condense extremely quickly. Advertisement. A transparent ice sculpture appeared in front of everyone's horrified eyes. Luffy pulled it casually, and the man in black shattered to the ground like an ice sculpture. Luffy glanced at the other guards. Oh, even the officials who were responsible for protecting the nobles of our world were killed. What are you waiting for? Luffy's voice became cold. why don't you arrest those criminals quickly? The Marines behind all trembled, and hurriedly saluted directly, and responded loudly, yes. The faces of the supernovas in the crowd changed drastically. Yoroge looked at Luffy with even more excitement. Sure enough, this guy is even lawless in the gossip. Yoroge's warlike nature was fully aroused, and he rushed towards Luffy carrying the iron pillar. And Zoro appeared in front of Luffy in an instant, and blocked Yoroge's iron pillar with a ding. Interested in making a move on our Admiral. Quote. Zoro grinned at Yoroge. As the EQ of the Straw Hat crew, Zoro knows that only Luffy, who has a strong testicle, can master the world of confrontation such as beating the Wylong people and killing chickens and monkeys. And other people must not attack them, but pirates have no scruples, so they can naturally use their full strength. Yoroge's movement woke up the kneeling pirates and the crowd. Only then did they suddenly realize the seriousness of the matter. The celestial dragons have been beaten. Admiral is coming. Not everyone is as crazy as the monk Yoroge, even kids started to run away with the crowd. Crazy. Just crazy. Jewelry Bonnie, a woman with a big stomach, muttered unceasingly, and fled wildly with her little brothers. Chichi de Rake retreated quickly with an ugly face. It was not easy for him to be an undercover agent. In order to prevent any accidents, he specially prevented Hyaming Appu from fighting with Kid. He was worried that his undercover plan would fail by causing a riot in the Sabaody Archipelago. In the end, I met Luffy, a lunatic, and gave celestial dragons a big B. He is stupid now. This is not just a riot. Admiral is coming, okay. In his heart now, there are 10,000 muddy horses running wildly on the prairie in his heart, and he just wants to leave this place of right and wrong as soon as possible. Luffy glanced at the many supernovas. Except for the 2B of the strange monk Yoroge, everyone else basically ran away. Advertisement. And this time, Luffy's main target is not these pirates, but the kidnapping groups, black markets, and human trafficking sites stationed in illegal areas. Asking for flowers. After all, it is not easy for de Rake to work hard undercover. If all these sand sculptures are killed, it will be strange that he is the only one who enters New World and does not arouse everyone's suspicion. But there is a supernova Luffy who does not intend to let him go. It's the Eustace kid with the highest bounty. Compared to other supernovas, this guy is the only one who has such a high bounty for killing civilians indiscriminately. You must know that when Marine issued rewards, the amount of the reward was determined based on the threat of pirates to Marine and the world government. Although cruel, the massacre of civilians will not have much impact on Marine's bounty. After all, massacre of civilians does not prove strength. Therefore, Kid raised the bounty to a level higher than that of Luffy, who made a fuss in Enies lobby by killing innocent people indiscriminately, which is enough to show that the number of civilians who died under his hands is no longer a simple village or even an island. Even Shaki, who was originally a member of the Rocks Pirates, was unhappy with his behavior. Even the red-haired, who always took care of the newcomers, couldn't help but take off one of his arms. It is enough to show how cruel this guy is. At this time, a communications soldier stepped forward and reported to Luffy, Master Vice Admiral, if the nobles of the world are attacked, we must notify the headquarters as soon as possible. You see. Luffy said with a serious face, with Vice Admiral here, do you need to trouble Admiral to come here? Besides, for this kind of thing, Master Celestial Dragons needs to call Admiral for support. You see, Master Celestial Dragons is now in a coma. What if he doesn't want to trouble Admiral because of trouble? In this way, you wait here for Master Celestial Dragons to wake up, and when he wakes up, you will see if you need to ask for Admiral's support according to Master Celestial Dragon's opinion. As he spoke, Luffy punched Charles Ross in the face again, ensuring that he would not wake up for a while. Do you understand? Communication soldier. Clear. Children can be taught. Luffy nodded in satisfaction, and then ordered to the guards of Celestial Dragons, you protect Sir Charles Ross. I lost a hair. Ask for you. Several guards looked at the CP5 that had turned into ice and nodded frantically, fearing that they would be the next one to be shattered. Luffy suddenly felt so great, he stood up and muttered. Sure enough, you still have to convince people with virtue. Then meditate in my heart. System, open the properties panels. Advertisement Chapter 204 Kill Supernova, Shinigami's horrific strength. Advertisement. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket currently loaded template. Hitsugaya Tōshirō close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket equipment. Zanpakutō Hyōrinmaru close black lens bracket. Zanpakutō basic skill. Celestial phenomena consistency, one of Hyōrinmaru's basic abilities, but also the most powerful ability. It is said that everything in the sky is controlled by it. Close black lens bracket. Zanpakutō Shikai skills. Icicles of birds, Ice Dragon Spin Tail Absolute Space, Vacuum Multilayer Ice Wall, Vacuum Ice Blade, Prismatic Ice Array, 6 Cloth Ice Clean Array. Zanpakutō Bankai skills. Remnant Ice Doll, Dragon Rack, Millennium Ice Prison, Frozen Flower Burial, 4 Realms Freeze. Open black lens bracket innate abilities. Fist, Slash, Ghost, Walk, Close black lens bracket. Skill Move 1. Fist means white hits, which refers to the technique of Shinigami attacking the enemy with bare hands, and its meaning is equivalent to hand-to-hand combat. Close black lens bracket. Skill Move 2. Zon means Kendo, which refers to Shinigami's technique of attacking the enemy with a knife and the development of Zanpakutō. 130. Skill Move 3. Ghost means Kido, which means that Shinigami transforms spiritual power into various forms to attack the enemy through chanting. Kido is divided into Hado, for the purpose of destruction, Bakudo, for the purpose of binding and imprisonment, and Kaido, for the purpose of healing. Close black lens bracket. Skill move 4. Walking, is Shunpo. Shunpo is a skill that moves the body quickly and instantly, and can move to the opponent's side or farther away at a speed that the opponent cannot see, similar to the footwork of teleportation. Close black lens bracket. Character reset countdown. 6 days, 10 hours and 48 minutes. Character reduction degree, 10%. Shinigami World Soul Society Jing Ling Te Gote 13 Juban Captain Hitsugaya Tōshirō template. This is the most powerful of the 16 random templates that Luffy has obtained since time travel. Excluding Shi Leng Li Jing's causality level skills. Owner Shinigami has the strongest ice system in the world. Zanpakuto's Hitsugaya Tōshirō's combat power is definitely the strongest among the 16 templates, even the first DC Poseidon that I randomly got is completely incomparable to it. Originally, it was difficult to achieve a 100% reduction in the level of the world where Luffy was in such a template. After all, Daiguren Hyōrinmaru is the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto at the same level as the Remnant Fire Teidao. The Bankai of Remnant Fire Tachi can evaporate the moisture of the entire Soul Society little by little. In contrast, Daiguren Hyōrinmaru developed to ultimate can freeze the moisture of the entire world. A low-level world like One Piece, which doesn't even have Starburst-level powerhouses, can't achieve this kind of influence on the terrifying combat power of a world. However, the strength of Hitsugaya Tōshirō gave Luffy the possibility to restore the secondary template. Because not everyone can reach the terrifying strength of Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni. Coupled with the fact that Hitsugaya Tōshirō is the youngest team leader, the development of Hyōrinmaru can only be preliminary developed. In the Millennium Blood War, even Hollow defeated Kang Shong, a member of the Star Cross Knights. Advertisement. So while the upper limit of Zanpakuto is extremely high, Hitsugaya Winter Sake has only been developed to a very small level. This also led to Hitsugaya Tōshirō not performing the incomprehensible moves that frightened the people of One Piece world throughout the plot. The strongest Bankai 4 realms freeze is to freeze all water, fire and wind in the space within 4 steps. Therefore, although Hitsugaya Tōshirō is strong, it has not reached the point where there is no hope of 100% restoration. Moreover, the strength of Shinigami comes from the soul, not the body. As long as one's soul is raised to the level of Hitsugaya Tōshirō, the template can be completely restored. And the soul energy of Luffy, who has traveled through 2 lifetimes and became the protagonist of Destiny, is naturally not comparable to the original Luffy. It can be seen from Luffy's early awakening of Conqueror's Haki, so Hitsugaya Tōshirō's powerful template Luffy has reached 10% reduction. And only with this 10% restoration of strength, Luffy can feel that the ability he can use is already stronger than Aokiji's frozen fruit. At this moment, Luffy's strength has steadily reached the Admiral level. In terms of attack power, it has reached the level of Garp. At this time Luffy looked at the fleeing Kid and Kira. A Shunpo instantly appeared in front of the two of them. What? Kid's face was ashen. Why don't you look for so many people, you look for me. Killing warrior Kira charged at Luffy from the side with a scimitar, screaming strangely. Ice Dragon spin tail. Without turning his face, Luffy waved Shikai's Hyōrinmaru casually, and a frozen area suddenly appeared in the air where the tip of the knife passed, and stabbed towards Kira. Kira's face changed, and he quickly dodged to the side. Absolutely empty. However, with Luffy's soft drink, the frozen area instantly pierced Kira's body as Luffy's knife tip accelerated and changed direction. Before Kira's blood dripped, the subsequent ice instantly froze Kira. Like a bloody ice sculpture. Quote exclamation mark quote. Kid's face changed drastically when he saw this, and he looked at Luffy in horror. Frozen fruit. Impossible. It's obviously Admiral Aokiji's ability. Then he looked at Luffy angrily. Don't think that you are the only one with devil fruit ability. You are looking for death. I saw Kid waved his hand, and the countless guns in Marine's hand were attracted by the magnetic force. Countless Marines looked at this place in surprise, and dozens of firecrackers aimed at Luffy in unison. Advertisement. Go to hell, Kid yelled angrily. Dozens of gunfire bullets all shot towards Luffy. Luffy frowned, and an ice wall surrounded Luffy, and the bullets hit the ice wall and were bounced off one after another. Prismatic ice formations. Ice walls made of finely composed ice. Its hardness is far beyond that of ordinary ice cubes. Hateful. Kid's face darkened, and he raised his right hand, because all the knives and guns were attached to his arm. Magnetic strings. The huge mechanical arm smashed towards Luffy fiercely. Luffy looked at such a simple use of devil fruit, his eyes were full of sarcasm. It's also magnetic. Look at Magneto next door, that B-type, that ability development. With his own efforts, he directly upgraded from a 4th level mutant to an Omega level mutant. On the other hand, the weak chicken in front of him is still using the most basic ability like a magnet. It's a shame for this devil fruit with unlimited potential. Looking at the pile of scrap iron that fell down, Luffy put away Zanpakuto directly and pointed at Kid with his right hand. King's Lander. The mask of flesh and blood, Vientiane, fluttering wings, and the name of human beings. 2.0 Scorching and Strife, across the sea to the south, step forward. As Luffy chanted, red light balls gathered in the palm of Luffy's right hand. 31 of Hado. Red cannon. Boom. A terrifying high concentration compressed flame spurted out from Luffy's palm. Impossible. How can I still use the ability of fire? Kid roared in disbelief. However, The captain-level red cannon fired as a perfect chant instantly pierced through his pile of scrap iron arms, and the terrifying impact directly opened a big hole in his heart. Kid looked at his chest unwillingly. Impossible. I'm the man who wants to be the One Piece. Plop. This future supernova, who was allied with Luffy for infinite sit-ups and rivaled Big Mom, completely fell down. Advertisement Chapter 205 The chess pieces take effect, may there be no iron body in heaven. Advertisement. Kid is dead. The Captain Kid who offered a reward of 315 million berry was killed in a flash. The fleeing supernovas looked at the dead kid and Kira whose body had been frozen into an ice sculpture, and their faces were full of fear. Even though she looks so young, how can this example set by Marine be so strong? Yoroj, the strange monk who was fighting with Zoro, pushed back vigorously. Zoro fled to the distance. At this time, his strength can be said to be the most powerful among the supernovas. After all, he is the only supernova ant who entered New World and directly defeated the cadres of the four emperors. With his current strength, he could feel Luffy's strength better than the others, so he forced back without hesitation and Zoro rushed out. The rest of the supernovas ran away like rabbits, and almost hated their parents for giving them two less legs. Luffy nodded in satisfaction looking at the pirates who gave up their resistance completely. After all, if these guys fight back, they will cause a lot of casualties to the Marine soldiers. At this time, the pirates were like deserters, and the Marines were chasing after them. Even if they were caught, they didn't dare to fight back, for fear that Luffy would fire them a red cannon. After all, although the Kido chanted by Ling Ling takes a long time before casting, its power should not be underestimated. Looking at the defeated pirates, Luffy waved his hand. Don't chase after poor ones, continue to follow the serial number, and wipe out all the criminal groups and kidnapping gangs in the lawless place for me. Yes. The Marines saluted Luffy in unison. A lieutenant junior grade non-commissioned officer ran up to Luffy and reported. But Luffy Vice Admiral, there are still many civilians in the illegal area, and we can't accurately identify those guys who are disguised as civilians. Luffy smiled slightly when he heard the words, and waved his hands towards several figures in the crowd. A burly man with white hair and dark skin came out in front of Luffy following a voluptuous big wave, bowed his head respectfully and said, Boss. Bar Lock Work Agency. Mr. 1 and Miss. 2 Fingers. Originally from criminal groups, they have changed their business to bounty hunters. The Sabaody Archipelago happened to be a place where bounty hunting criminals haunted, and the Bar Lock Agency, which mainly relied on hunting pirates, directly moved its headquarters here. When Luffy went to number 13 GR Tree Island, he found a lot of signs of the lock works. Naturally, the cooperation of them who are familiar with this place is indispensable for clearing out lawless places. You send people to lead the way and destroy all other organizations except the bounty hunters. Luffy said to M1, there is no need to keep alive. Advertisement. M1 nodded. Yes. Immediately, dozens of members of the Bar Lock Work Club appeared in the crowd and stood behind M1. The Marines looked at the group of lock workers in surprise. This recently emerged powerful bounty hunter organization often brings many high bounty pirates to the base to receive rewards. Naturally, everyone is no stranger to it. However, they did not expect this organization to obey the command of Luffy Vice Admiral. Dozens of members of the work club are elites selected by Mr. 1 from the entire work club. After undergoing the simplified version of the 6-style training provided by Luffy, although they are not worth supernovas, they are still no problem to deal with 10 to 20 million small pirates. Soon each member led a team of Marine soldiers to start a sweep of Sabaody Archipelago. Numerous mafias and criminal groups were directly executed by Marine. Are you crazy? We are the guards of Stew Kingdom. Do you know who is behind us? You are courting death. Countless words of, Father Zhang or he, resounded all over the island. However, what awaited them was a series of ruthless bullets. However, the existence of illegal areas naturally has its own reasons, and the strength of many human traffickers or killer groups is not weaker than Marine. However, under the leadership of the two masters Zoro and Brook, in cooperation with the masters of the Bar Lock Work Agency, countless criminals were killed. Luffy will not keep alive the orders given by Marine. After all, most of these organizations are standing behind the World Government Alliance countries or even Celestial Dragons. To capture them alive can only let the masters behind them redeem them. Luffy has no intention of letting these groups goes back alive. At this time, Nami and others walked to Luffy's side and asked worriedly, is it really okay? Camie. Don't worry, Sanji is following Camie. I'm afraid all the people on this island who want to threaten Sanji are here. Luffy comforted Nami with a smile. Right, Luffy said suddenly to a cloaked figure in the crowd bowing his head. The man in the cloak was startled, and then rushed up at a terrifying speed. Is this the sixth form? Khalifa's expression changed behind him, stronger than Lu Chi. Could it be? Luffy grinned. That's right, Celestial Dragon's Shield PO. Luffy stretched out his hand, blocking the CPO's punch. Monkey D. Luffy, do you know what you are doing? You just attacked Lord Celestial Dragons. Advertisement. The masked man in white robe shouted angrily at Luffy. Ah, don't talk nonsense, I will sue you for slander. Master Celestial Dragons was beaten by those escaped pirates, it's in my way. Luffy said with a, hit me, expression on his face. Although CPO on the opposite side couldn't see the expression, he could tell from his trembling body that he was very angry at Luffy's brazenness. Don't go too far. The masked man snorted, with hockey in his hand, trying to break away from Luffy's palm. 6 Styles 6 King Spear. CP0 smashed towards Luffy with his fist, and the wind of the fist had already blown Luffy's cloak. Luffy let out a loud shout, and in a blink of an eye, he disappeared from CP0's field of vision. The karmic fire spear. With a bang, CP0 flew straight out like a cannonball, smashing down countless buildings. Suddenly, he found that Luffy's fist did not disappear with Luffy's figure, but stayed in midair strangely. Luffy's light voice reached his ears from behind him. Thunder's breath 1 type, Thunderbolt 6 types. The arms in the air are directly connected behind him. It's not Luffy's one-on-one enemy at all. CP0 froze in place for an instant, staring blankly at the empty front. Where's the person? I saw Luffy blew on the fist that was ignited by friction, and vomited blood crazily. CP0 in the ruins with a sympathetic face and said. CP0's face changed drastically, he just wanted to turn around. I saw him exhale, traces of lightning lingering around his body, and finally gathering slowly on his feet. Using the extreme speed caused by the breath of thunder and shaving combined with the stretchability of rubber to create a terrifying level A. Not good. Iron body. The motionless fist suddenly burst into flames under the friction of the air, and smashed straight into his face at a terrifying speed. 6 styles, I can do it too. Luffy touched his chin and let you see mine. 820. Several guards of celestial dragons looked at Luffy in horror, that is the so-called shield CP of celestial dragons. May there be no iron body in heaven. Advertisement Chapter 206 Sengoku with a headache, Garp who protects the calf. Advertisement. Naval headquarters at this time. Garp was stuffing pieces of senbei into his mouth, and a colonel below him was nervously waiting for Garp's reply. Pluton Silver Rayleigh, Garp muttered as he swallowed the senbei that came in from Sengoku. The colonel nodded, and said nervously, that's right, the people around didn't seem to notice, they thought he was just an old man holding an auction. Peef. Ha ha ha. Garp took another bite of the biscuit and laughed loudly, are you going to sell the banquet master at the human auction? What? Vice Admiral Garp. The colonel emphasized to Garp, that's Pluton Rayleigh. Although the subordinates have not confirmed it 100%, but what should we do about Vice Admiral? What can be suspected now is what happened on Tree Island on the 13th some time ago. The terrorist battle is likely to be related to Pluton Rayleigh, shall we report to Marshal Sengoku? No, I'll just deal with this matter and don't tell anyone else, including Sengoku. Garp ordered, tell your men to keep their mouths shut. But, if it's me, it must be me. Garp waved his hand, occasionally I get news of seeing him, probably because I'm short of money to sell myself, now we can't spare our energy to deal with an old guy who lives in seclusion, you don't want to let him. Marine fought against 2 legendary characters at the same time. Garp took a sip of his tea with sharp eyes. He knew that the reason for Rayleigh's shot some time ago was his grandson Ace. However, when he was thinking about how to fool Sengoku, suddenly his office door was pushed open vigorously. Garp. PFF'd. Terrified, Garp sprayed all the tea in his mouth onto his subordinates' faces. What are you doing, Sengoku? Shock me. Garp looked at Sengoku rushing in with disgust. B************** D Garp. Do you know your grandson is in trouble again? Advertisement. Sengoku growled frantically at Garp. Huh. Garp shuddered. Grandson. Ace. Garp, who was thinking of Rayleigh, blurted out unconsciously. Sengoku. Ahem. Is it Luffy? Garp laughed. What trouble can he cause, as long as he doesn't beat up those trash? Garp looked at Sengoku's expressionless face and choked on the spot. Did he beat up that bunch of trash? It's more than just beating those trash. Cough cough. Celestial dragons, your grandson led the Marines to sweep away the lawless place in the name of saving his friends. Sengoku said with hatred. Garp was taken aback when he heard the words, this is a good thing, then he covered his stomach and laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, you are indeed my grandson. Garp. Sengoku reminded Garp angrily, you know who is standing behind that group of people. Behind them are the shadows of half of the 170 countries that have joined the world government. Shadows of celestial dragons. Garp pinched his nostrils indifferently. That kind of garbage place should have been cleaned up long ago. If I didn't have time, I would have wiped it out. Anyway, it's an illegal place and it's not under our control. It's still a waste of time to wipe out those countries. Dare to stand up openly. This is a gray industry with unspoken rules, and it is impossible to put it on the bright side. At most, these guys smashed their teeth and swallowed it. At best, they secretly put on shoes for Luffy in places like World Summit. But with his own cover, are you afraid that Luffy will not be able to get along in the Marine? When I was training Luffy and Ace when I was young, I told them that I must become a powerful sailor. As long as he can become a Marine, he can protect him from death, even if he is the son of Ace Roger, as long as he is Marine, no one can touch him. That's what it's like to be a Marine hero, Garp the Fist. But how did Luffy meet that group of garbage? Didn't those 2 things be sent back to Mariajoy by Marine? Garp suddenly remembered another important point Sengoku said. That bunch of rubbish. Bah, there are 3 celestial dragons on the island. They were supposed to go to auction number 1 to buy slaves, but they got separated from one of them. We sent those 2 away, and the other one was robbing the women from behind, and happened to bump into Luffy who was cleaning up the lawless place, and as a result, you know, this guy is rubbish without saying a word. Bah, celestial dragons came in for a shot, and I still fainted on the spot and didn't get up. Sengoku explained helplessly. Garp laughed loudly when he heard the words. Well done, as expected of my grandson. Ha ha ha, but how did you know he fainted? My father was attacked in Sabaody, He must have been worried about his son's safety, so he sent a CP0 to the island to protect him, and saw with his own eyes that your precious grandson came directly behind with a big B pocket, and wiped out the casual CP5, worried that the garbage woke up and mended it. You said he won't report it. Advertisement. Garp was a little speechless. Why are you so careless? Such a big CP0 didn't find it. Sengoku. Oi County. Is this the point? Sengoku looked at Garp suspiciously. Sengoku rubbed his head with a headache. Did you hide something from me? Garp. Oh, that's all right. The major understood and quickly retreated. Bankai Daiguren Hyōrinmaru. Millennium Ice Prison. Nani. Those scumbags from Shichibukai have also gone. No, I will go too. If you dare to touch a hair of my grandson, Lousy will kill them. Garp rolled up his sleeves. Lousy's grandson will act bravely if Uranus Lousy is here. Don't even try to touch a single hair of my grandson. At this time, what kind of human slaves are sold at a banquet sitting in a hurry? Tyrant Bartholomew Bear. How is it possible? Come on, have you brought Senbei? I have a new detective, ha ha ha. Now I have sent Kizaru to support. Celestial dragons are injured. Admiral is inevitable. Even if it is to replace the dead ghosts, you need to find a few. Hurry up and send your grandson to hide for 2 days. Suddenly a biting cold came from outside the venue. The bewildered Sengoku was pulled aside by Garp to drink tea, and then glared at the major. At this time, Luffy and Marine have swept away most of the illegal islands, leaving only one gross island where the human auction is located. Public execution is about to happen. Can you let me live in peace? And I heard that the world government also knew about it. They even sent Shichibukai over there. Those scumbags will not listen to us. When the time comes you can rely on your grandson to handle it by himself. Seeing this, Sengoku was trembling with anger. Stop. We sent Admiral, and the world government is Shichibukai. You won't be able to face the next situation. Besides, Kizaru is a little lazy, but his strength is there. No matter how you say it, he is better than the tyrant bear. Get there early, and let him look at Luffy, then it's over. What's going on, Qian Nuohao, by yourself? No, wait a minute, who did you say went? Sengoku. Advertisement Chapter 207 Burial of Ice and 100 Flowers. Actress Luffy's journey to becoming an actor. Advertisement. Human auction. The nominal objects of the auction are human criminals and nationals of non-member countries of the world government. The amount of the auction ranges from a minimum of 500,000 to a maximum of 70 million pele, and the price varies according to race. Now the spotlight shines on the greatest dark place in the face of absolute justice at naval headquarters. The flickering stage lights vividly reflected the ugly faces of the nobles. What do you want to buy back this time? An old man asked a horrible word to an ugly lady in a gentleman's tone. Oh, the human slave I bought last time will be useless if I don't carry it for 10 days, so I want to buy a young and strong Murloc man today, the lady said disgusting words without any shame. Ah ha ha, really, I want to buy 2 or 3 young women for my eyes. Ha ha, you really like young women. What kind of cute girl will come out? At this moment, the hall is full of beasts in human skin, and they are all waiting for their favorite slaves to be pulled onto the stage for auction. Why do you feel a little cold? Staff, how do you work? Why is it so cold in the venue? The nobles shouted loudly in dissatisfaction. At this time, on the stage, Sanji came out slowly with a cigarette lit. Today's auction is cancelled, you scumbags. Sanji looked at this group of ugly nobles with disgust on their faces. B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* scared boy. Hey, is your auction house here to trick us? For a time, the nobles were excited. With a bang, the door of the auction was kicked open, and a gust of biting cold wind rushed in from outside the door. The nobles near the door trembled. Looking back, Luffy walks in wearing a cloak of justice and carrying Dagger and Hyōrinmaru. Oh, Marine. That's great. Hurry up and grab that kid on stage. Exactly. Disturbing the order of the auction venue must be pirates. Catch them and make them slaves. The one with thin skin and tender flesh looks pretty good. I bought it for 1 million Baileys. Advertisement. Seeing that Luffy thought he was here to maintain order in the auction venue, the nobles excitedly yelled at Sanji. Luffy smiled and looked at Sanji. Not bad, it seems that you still have a market, and some people offer 1 million Baileys to buy you. Sanji's head was full of black lines. Kill you. Luffy laughed. Where's Camie? It was rescued, with the slaves behind. Sanji shrugged and motioned to the rear. I have gone out through the back door according to your instructions. At this time, the nobles also realized that something was wrong. It seemed that the Marine who came in was the same as the troublemaker on the stage. Damn it, who the hell are you? Don't you know I'm the Duke of Fia Kingdom? I'm telling you, first know you Marine executives. My nephew is you, Colonel Naval Headquarters. Many nobles scolded Luffy loudly. Luffy ignored the group of scumbags and said to Sanji, you go out first, send Camie back to the bottom of the sea first, there is trouble coming. Huh, Sanji looked at Luffy suspiciously, then turned around and backed out from the stage. As soon as he went out the back door, he discovered that huge icicles exuded a terrifying cold air and surrounded the entire auction house. The moment he walked out of the gap between the icicles like a cage, the icicles instantly expanded and connected together, completely sealing the entire auction house in a refrigerator. At this time, Luffy looked at the panicked beasts below and grinned. If you die, the world government will definitely feel distressed. What are you going to do? We are all officials of the member countries of the world government. You are making an enemy of the world government. You are Marine. You are responsible for protecting us. At this time, no matter how stupid the nobles were, they realized that something was wrong and condemned Luffy loudly. At this time, Zanpakutō Hyōrinmaru Shikai's crescent-shaped chain will disappear, and instead, various wings, tails, and dragon claws that have been converted into ice are attached to Luffy's body. Bankai Katakana middle dot Daiguren Hyōrinmaru, the celestial phenomena are coming. At this time Luffy looked at the nobles BEFC, coldly as if he had turned into a frost devil. Zoro, Marine, slaves and others outside the auction house suddenly felt the temperature drop. Nami looked at the sky in surprise, and hugged his arms tightly. Why? The airflow suddenly changed. Dark, watery cumulonimbus clouds were summoned from everywhere by Luffy. Soon the entire Sabaody Archipelago was shrouded in dark rain clouds. Luffy felt the rain clouds gathering in the sky, raised his eyebrows, and sure enough, Hitsugaya Tōshirō couldn't control his Bankai perfectly, nor did he have enough strength to control Hyōrinmaru. And I only have about 10% of the soul power of Hitsugaya Tōshirō, and the power is even worse than that of Hitsugaya Tōshirō. Advertisement. But this is enough. Luffy exuded a shimmering white light, and the Hyōrinmaru in his hand suddenly burst into a dazzling white light. The white beam of light directly pierced the cumulonimbus cloud that shot straight into the sky in the auction venue. With a bang, a big hole was blasted out of the extremely dark sky by the white light, and the dreamlike white light enveloped the auction house like a searchlight. The Marines outside looked at the sky in amazement. What's going on? The sky seems to be leaking. What happened to the auction venue? Dreamy flakes of snow began to fall from the sky. But Luffy's figure suddenly broke through the 1,000-year-old ice prison and flew out. Everyone looked at Luffy, who seemed to be in a panic. Luffy Vice Admiral. What happened? Zoro and the others were also staring at the hole in the ice prison. They couldn't imagine that someone could injure such a powerful Luffy. Luffy secretly gave Khalifa a thumbs up. Tiandao Pain Jabra was frozen in it. Tiandao Pain, former member of CP9 Jabra. Zoro and the others looked at Luffy blankly. And at this moment, a large group of reporters broke through the Marine defense line and rushed up like flies smelling the smell. I saw Luffy yelling at his clone with a heroic expression. Countless snowflakes fell towards Tiandao Pain, and soon the clone was wrapped in ice flowers, forming a beautiful icicle. Leading the way ahead is Luffy's secretary Khalifa. Under the watchful eyes of the Marines, the nobles in the auction house were instantly crushed into patties by a demon fruit power with a wolf's head and a human body. A burial of frozen flowers. Snowflakes all over the sky smashed towards the ice coffin. The sound of whispering came from inside the ice coffin. The justice of my generation cannot back down. Even if it costs my life, I will seal you. Every snowflake in the sky falls to the ground to form an extremely cold ice flower. Khalifa pushed his glasses and muttered softly, Shenluo Tianzheng. Luffy looked resolutely into the ice coffin and shouted loudly, as long as I, Monkey D. Luffy, are here, I will not allow you false gods to run rampant. You are sexual harassment. Advertisement Chapter 208. The ape comes and the pacifists get out of control. Advertisement. Reporter. Luffy Vice Admiral, may I ask what is the purpose of bringing troops here this time? Luffy. To enforce justice. I can't imagine that there is such a criminal area hidden near naval headquarters. Luffy. Can you imagine? I actually saw the corpses of our Marine soldiers being insulted wantonly in this so-called illegal area. Human traffickers and criminal groups are rampant, openly kidnapping my friend who is Marine Vice Admiral. Absolutely lawless. Reporter. I heard that you attacked Charles Ross Saint, who is a world nobleman, on the way to eliminate criminals. Luffy. Slander. Pure slander. It is because of my heroic and righteous actions that I saved Lord Charles Ross from the fire and water when he was attacked by those nasty pirates. Reporter. This auction resulted in heavy casualties. Are you responsible for this incident? Luffy. I feel very sorry for the hostage casualties. I really didn't expect that the member of CP9 who defected from the world government and destroyed Eni's lobby was here. They did such a cruel terrorist attack in the name of saving the world. I deeply regret this incident. Fortunately, I spent my life and used my unique skills to keep this terrifying opponent. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone. The general public said. Our Marine is the bastion of peace in the era of pirates. As long as there are powerful evil forces on the sea, our Marine will expel them with all our strength. Thank you everyone. Reporter. Thank you for cooperating so actively with our interview this time. Where, you? Luffy sent the group of reporters away with a smile. Zoro's people looked at the spirited Luffy with black lines all over their heads, completely oblivious to the fact that this amiable guy in front of him had just bloodbathed 30 lawbreakers in Tree Island. At this time, at the port of the Fishmen Island, pirates gathered here. Damn Monkey D. Luffy, what a lunatic. But that lunatic is too strong. That's the supernova captain kid with the most bounties. The point is that guy even dared to fight celestial dragons. It's lawless. Run, maybe when the celestial dragons will wake up, it will be a big trouble. Boom, boom, boom. There was a sound of cannon fire. Burst among the many pirates. Everyone looked at the distant sea in horror. A tall figure stepped on the shells and flew directly towards Sabaody Island. With a bang, an explosion sounded. Moshi Moshi. Advertisement. Moshi Moshi. Yo, I'm Kizaru, I've arrived, please reply. A lazy sound came from the explosion. As the smoke cleared, Kizaru was talking non-stop into the black phone watch with his arms outstretched. How strange. Why is no one answering? Moshi Moxie. However, there was no sound from the phone bug. How strange. Is it broken? Kizaru scratched his head, looked at the whining pirates on the pier. I want to inquire about something. I'm looking for a man named Zan Momomaru. Have you met him? He. Before Kizaru finished speaking, the pirates screamed and ran in all directions. And there are always guys who are not afraid of death. Mr. Apu, let's run. We will be in danger if we stay any longer. A pirate anxiously persuaded Apu of the long-handed clan. Hyoming Apu stood on the roof and looked at Kizaru with interest in his eyes. You're so stupid, what's the point of running sneakily? Of course it's fun to run after you annoy the enemy. The younger brother looked at Apu with a confused face. Brother, what do you mean? At this time, each supernova showed their unique combat power. Some of the Marines who came to support were turned into old people or children by Jewelry Bonnie. He was caught off guard by Capone Bedge's crowd tactics. Only Apu jumped to the front roof of Kizaru and started his rap. Yo, it's scary. Are all the newcomers this year so scary? By the way, have you seen Zan Taowen? Kizaru looked at Apu who was rapping at him with a frightened look on his face. As Apu played an invisible sound wave, Kizaru's arm was cut off with a swish, and then his chest exploded violently, and the whole person was directly split into two and fell to the ground. Seeing this, Apu laughed and stretched out his long hands, and jumped to escape from the roof. And Kizaru's two parts fell to the ground, looked at Apu with a horrified face and said, It's amazing, it's worthy of the bounty of 198 million berry Hyoming Apu. But haven't you seen Zan Taowen? I'm afraid I will be in trouble if I don't find him. However, I happen to be relatively free now. Since I met you, the bounty criminal, I can't let you go, the bounty criminal, right? Asking for flowers. Advertisement. Speed is weight, have you ever tried a flash kick? Kizaru's whole body instantly turned into a laser and flew towards Apu. Apu, who was ecstatic about what he had done, suddenly found that there was another person beside him. It's so scary, you group of hundreds of millions of newcomers are like monsters. Kizaru touched his chin, and kicked him away with a shining golden kick for an unknown distance. The faces of Yoroge and others who were hiding from the crowd changed drastically. So TM strong. One horrible bite, one monster, one supernova, this shit is outrageous. And Kizaru's originally lazy eyes suddenly sharpened. Zan Taomaru's anxious voice came from the phone bug, it's obviously here to test the pacifist data. Kizaru said lazily, but his figure had disappeared from the port. Seeing that Kizaru picked up the phone bug in his hand and Mosey, Drake bravely jumped out and reminded Kizaru loudly, you just want to kill us all. Take a phone bug and Moses is there what? He dialed Zan Taowen's phone bug, Moshi Moshi. I'm Pelusalino. Hey what? I'm in trouble, a pacifist lost control and disappeared into the formation. Zan Taowen's voice came from the phone. Drake, who was planning to slip away, turned black when he saw this. Didn't he report that he asked Marine to let this wave of supernovas leave Sabaody? How do you meet up and kill one directly? Kizaru embarrassingly took out another ordinary phone bug from his coat pocket. Oh, I found it, it turned out to be this. Grandpa, don't you have a phone bug? Why can't you get in touch now? Kizaru glanced at Drake, then looked at the black phone bug on his wrist. Oh, so it's a phone monitor bug, I got it wrong. And at the same time number 1GR Tree Island. Old man, old man. Luffy squinted at the pacifist with a red light in front of him. Hey, it's right this time, Zan Taomaru. Oh, I see, it's not a big deal, after all, it's an experimental product, so it's normal for something to go wrong. Monkey D. Luffy, Kill 3. Advertisement Chapter 209 Hello, Uncle Kizaru, the three forces are gathered, all of them are our own. Advertisement. Monkey D. Luffy, obliterate. The pacifist opened his mouth with red eyes and a yellow laser flashing inside, which is Kizaru's laser light. What is this? Zoro frowned and frowned at the pacifist. This time, everyone had never seen a bear in the three ghostly ships, and naturally they couldn't recognize the bear in Seven Warlords of the Sea. A man-made weapon developed by the government for pacifists. Luffy squinted at the war machine that was exactly the same as the tyrant bear. He had no idea that the pacifists would attack him. Although this thing is transformed from a human body, it no longer has any thinking. The target of the attack should be the reward order issued by the world government. With a sound of "Bew," a huge laser beam shot directly towards Luffy. The warning in their hearts caused Zoro and others to change their faces. Luffy, be careful. Luffy looked at this thing with contempt, and he couldn't resist a rookie who could deal with 600 and not know how to use hockey. For a person like himself whose overall strength was comparable to Admiral, it was useless. I saw Luffy stretching out his hand a step forward, and chanted, Fudaoji's 8 reprimands. An invisible shield of spiritual power stood in front of everyone. With a swish sound, the laser light shot in front of Luffy and turned abruptly, shooting towards the number 2 tree island next to it. Boom. The huge explosion directly changed the faces of Zoro and others, it's so powerful. At this time, the Marines following Luffy finally came to their senses. They surrounded Luffy anxiously and pointed their guns at the pacifists. Who are you? How dare you attack Marine Vice Admiral? Luffy waved his hand. Back off, this is not something you can deal with. Then Luffy looked at the pacifist with a strange look on his face. If you don't show up, I almost forgot that I got a hacking skill. Luffy pointed casually, and an electric current rushed directly into the head of the pacifist. It's really rough technology. If you say it's 500 years ahead of the world, that's it. Luffy muttered looking at the frozen pacifist. Hacking abilities. Advertisement. Computers can be hacked directly without cables, electronic devices can be hacked directly through electrical signals or electronic operations, and even communication lines can destroy electronic devices. Masaka Makoto's tasteless skills drawn when restoring the template, things that were thought to be useless at first, did not expect to be particularly useful at this time. Zoro came back to his senses, pulled out 3 knives and pointed directly at the pacifist solemnly. Luffy waved his hand. It's done. At this time, the red light in the pacifist's eyes had disappeared, and he walked up to Luffy and stood still. Who the hell is this? Zoro patted the pacifist's arm with the back of the knife strangely, but made a sound of golden iron, robot. Luffy nodded. The war weapons developed by the Marine Science Corps are obviously taken out for experiments. Immediately, his eyes narrowed. The obliteration order under the world government. No, it should be celestial dragons. Luffy knew why the pacifist was attacking him instantly after he hacked into the pacifist system. Someone deliberately tampered with the pacifist program, made the illusion that the system was out of control, and attempted to kill himself. After all, it was still a test product, and it was normal for some accidents to happen. It's a pity that they underestimated Luffy's strength too much, not to mention the fake version of laser light. Even Kizaru's original 8-foot stroke jade itself will never move, and of course it is only limited to the current template. This laser skill is pretty good. Luffy looked at the laser launch port on the pacifist's arm, touched his chin and said, send it to Sky Island for Enel and Circa C. Let them modify the soldiers on the moon. It's perfect. That's it. Sky Island is a little troublesome to go up. It is most suitable for the moon soldiers who rely on electricity to transform into this kind of weapon. Luffy. At this time Sanji's voice came from a distance. What happened? I just passed by and there was a violent explosion. Did something happen? Yo, you're back, Camie sent back. Luffy greeted. Of course, both Camie and the starfish have been sent to the sea. What happened to Luffy? Why did you send Camie away? Sanji lit a cigarette and asked Luffy. Because the boss came to this island. Luffy chuckled. Right, Uncle Kizaru. It's scary. As expected of the grandson of the legendary Vice Admiral Garp, he can subdue even violent pacifists. A voice sounded from behind everyone. Everyone looked behind in horror, but no one noticed that there was an extra person behind them. Kizaru Admiral. Advertisement. The Marines were startled, and saluted in unison. Luffy rolled his eyes. Shouldn't I explain it? Why did Marine's secret weapon attack me, Marine Vice Admiral? Do you know about this, Uncle Kizaru? Kizaru scratched his head like a retired old man, and didn't respond to Luffy's behavior of asking for relatives. It's a pity, I don't know, the pacifist went berserk, is the test product still incomplete? Quote. Luffy carefully looked at Kizaru's expression, even though Kizaru's personality is unpredictable, but Luffy's intuition told him that Kizaru was indeed not lying. After all, with Kizaru's strength, there is no need to use such a troublesome way if he really wants to kill himself. And the name of playing the ape is not for nothing, although I don't know the identity, but the scene of the Summit War releases water is obvious to all. Starting Kizaru is the same time branch as the Luffy he traveled through, otherwise Luffy still has great confidence that Kizaru and himself are the same on a boat. After all, first I'm a marine and my father is a revolutionary soldier. As long as Kizaru is not an undercover agent of the 4 emperors, he must be a grasshopper on the same rope. In this way, only the 5 elders and celestial dragons of the world government have the ability to modify the order. At this time, Luffy didn't know, and Kizaru was also full of shock at this time. He would not be so surprised if Luffy killed the pacifists casually. After all, these battles were enough for these high-level officials to have a general understanding of Luffy's strength. And the reason why he dared to come was simply because he was worried that Luffy would be attacked by pacifists. However, what he didn't expect was that Luffy used this kind of manipulation to control the pacifists. You must know that this is Vegapunk's technology. It stands to reason that no one can take away the pacifist without permission. But Luffy easily controlled the pacifists, which is why 1.5 Kizaru was so surprised. If the control can be taken away casually, wouldn't it be quite dangerous for the pacifists to turn against them once they go to the battlefield? Hey, how shameful you are, PX4. To build a pacifist like you would cost a warship. Really, how can I report to that punk B********************************? D? A voice of dissatisfaction came from the top of the tree. When everyone looked up, a strong man in a bellyband jumped down from the tree. It was Zan Momomaru, the captain of the Science Corps. Usopp looked at Zontaoen and then at Zontaoen. Hey, Frankie, the same pervert as you. Zontaoen. Hash. If you wanted to travel, where would you go? Another gentle voice came from the other side. Luffy grinned. Hey guy, is it all here at last? Advertisement chapter 210 Yan Yuan. Can you please respect me? Advertisement. Bear. Why are you here? Zontaomaru frowned and looked at Bartholomew Akuma. It is obvious that the Sabaody Archipelago came to test the power of the pacifists, but the bear as the subject of the experiment should not appear here. If you wanted to travel, where would you go? Shang didn't seem to hear Zontaomaru's question, and repeated the sentence again. Luffy's face was a little ugly at this time, because he found that one of the bear's eyes had already emitted a red light like a Terminator. Zoro. Sanji. Take Nami to the side. Luffy frowned and said to Zoro behind him. What's the matter? Zoro asked as he put his hand on the word Hidao. It's not something you can intervene now, retreat. Luffy frowned again. Zoro glanced at the bear on the opposite side, followed Luffy's words and retreated unwillingly. At this time, Kizaru also noticed something was wrong. It's so strange, it stands to reason that the bear's consciousness should still exist. Normally, Shang at this time has not yet received the last transformation, and the consciousness of being a revolutionary army has not disappeared. 14 Someone has forcibly intervened, even if it is semi-mechanical, it is enough to forcibly control certain actions of the bear. Luffy frowned and looked at the bear in front of him. Who was Luffy most afraid of in 7 Warlords of the Sea? And it was this titled warrior tyrant Shang who had been titled shortly after its launch. A meatball fruit was developed by him as ultimate, which can not only send out air cannons through compressed air, but also bounce off itself at a speed as fast as teleportation, and even bounce off pain and fatigue, which is simply outrageous. And he is also one of the few titled fighters who is not defeated but titled. No one knows where the upper limit of the bear's strength is. And Luffy also tried it just now. I don't know if it's because the bears haven't all been transformed into robots. It seems that it takes a lot more time to hack into the mechanical parts of the bears through the hacker ability than the pacifists. It should be Kumamoto, the subconscious resistance made by the body's consciousness. At this time, the bear only muttered the sentence, "If you want to travel, where would you go?" But the movements in his hands were not slow at all. Appeared next to Luffy in an instant, and directly smashed his palm towards Luffy. So fast. Zoro and the others stared at the bear in horror. Sanji was so startled that his cigarette butts fell to the ground. With his newly awakened observation haki, he couldn't catch the bear at all. Advertisement. Pressure cannon. A bear-shaped air palm pressed towards Luffy. Kizaru on the side frowned, pointed his middle finger at the bear, and flashed the iconic circle of laser light. Luffy stretched out his hand to stop him. "Don't hurt him, I'll do it." "Hey, don't be too arrogant, that's Shichibukai's bear." Zan Momomaru reminded loudly. As the leader of the science team, he naturally knew the strength of the bear. Even the identity of the revolutionary army is clear, but I don't know what kind of deal Shang and Vegapunk made to become a test prototype voluntarily. Now the last experiment is about to be carried out, and Shang's sanity is close to collapse. Kizaru frowned. Although most of the strength of the bear in haki has been crippled after mechanical transformation, the development of the fruit ability alone is not inferior to any other Shichibukai. Kizaru put away the laser light on his fingers, and he looked at Luffy wondering how he would respond. 39 of Bakuto. The round gate fan. Luffy reached out and a round protective shield appeared in front of him. With a bang, the air cannon hit the round shield, and the round shield shattered, and Luffy retreated in time. Slam the pressure cannon. But Shang didn't hesitate at all, and pushed countless bear-shaped air cannons with both hands to float towards Luffy. Sit on the frosty sky Hyōrinmaru. Bankai. Daiguren Hyōrinmaru. Luffy directly pulled out Zanpakutō and cast Bankai Ice Dragon and Ice Dragon Star, which appeared behind Luffy. Kizaru looked at Luffy's puzzled face in bewilderment, and thought to himself, this is the ability of frozen fruit. Isn't this guy a rubber fruit? Nika fruit can also control ice. Is it so outrageous? Ice Dragon spinning tail. Luffy swiped forward, and thick layers of icicles blocked the pressure cannon shot by the bear one by one. The violent explosion blew the icicles into pieces. And Luffy took this opportunity to quickly come to an empty grass field. The bear bounced and flew behind Luffy in an instant. "Hey, Straw Hat Boy, watch out." After Zan Taoan saw it, he reminded loudly. However, Luffy stood there motionless as if he didn't hear it. Advertisement. Old man, something is going to happen. Senmomomaru hastily reminded Kizaru. "Why are you so anxious, can't you tell it's fake?" Ah, Zan Taoan was taken aback. Luffy, who was shot by the bear, first showed a surprised expression, and then burst into ice. Remnant Ice Doll. Use a double made of ice to bear the enemy's attack instead of yourself. And another figure of Luffy appeared behind Shang, pressing on the bear's body. "I'm sorry, let me calm down first, the 4 worlds are frozen." It was supposed to be the ultimate move used by the fully liberated Daiguren Hyōrinmaru, but it was used after being weakened by Luffy. Zan Taoan frowned at Shang and said, "What's the matter with you, Shang?" This time, he was originally ordered by Long to provide training packages for Luffy's companions. Who would have thought that he would be set up by the world government, directly forced to open the reward mode and asked to kill Luffy? The red light in his eyes dimmed again, and Shang's eyes became lively. Luffy looked at Kizaru from the side and rolled his eyes. He laughed dryly. Where, with Shan Yufei, who is paid well, you are a worse choice than me." The red light in the bear's eyes in the ice cube flickered back and forth, and finally the bear lost control of his body due to the slow brain response in the low temperature state. 210 Kizaru's leisurely expression suddenly froze. That B************ D said bad things behind his back, which made me how to fish in water at work in the future. Shang nodded. Originally, although he had his own consciousness at this time, many behaviors were restricted by the implanted system in his mind. This is why the world government assuredly recruited Shang into the scientific army for experiments. And Luffy also modified the route his father had set for his companion just now. The bear who stood still fell silent. Once the experiment started, Shang couldn't escape the human body modification experiment, but at this time there was no need to continue the experiment, because the restriction program in his mind had been modified by Luffy. The bear who regained his sanity shook his head and didn't want to say anything, but turned to look at Luffy. "Are you sure you want to do this? The places I chose before should be more suitable for your companions." At this time, Kizaru listened to the two casually discussing how to cheat the world government with black lines all over his head. At the same time, Luffy's hacking ability was instantly activated, and he began to compete with Shang's subconscious for control. Can you respect me? I am also responsible for the pacifist project, B******************. D. The air within 4 steps centered on Luffy and the bear were instantly frozen into an ice cube. That's amazing. Kizaru clapped his hands as he watched Shang regain his composure. The Star Vice Admiral really lives up to its reputation. Luffy nodded when he heard the words. I'm not a bounty criminal, this time is just an exception. After the Summit War, even if the world government wants to target me, it will not be so easy. The restrictions and permissions in your brain have already helped you, it's over, you don't need to continue the last experiment. With a bang, the frozen bear's ice cubes shattered. Advertisement Chapter 211 The Truth of the Summit War, the contest between marine and celestial dragons. Advertisement. The reason why Luffy believes in Kizaru so much is naturally not because of the so-called undercover Kizaru, the best ape actor and other titles randomly analyzed by those netizens on the internet in the previous life. It's a logical decision by Luffy in light of what's happened. Garp once said when Luffy and Ace were young that they must become a strong sailor. Because as long as he became a sailor, Garp would be sure enough to save the lives of the two of them. Judging from Garp's adoption of Ace and letting go of the pirate Luffy, it is enough to show that Garp is not that kind of dead-headed justice. The reason why Summit War doesn't shoot is purely because he is a marine, and Ace is a pirate, and he is not allowed to shoot for the sake of the justice behind him. Even so, after Ace's death, Garp almost didn't hold back to kill Akainu, which is enough to show that the status of Luffy and others in Garp's heart is not inferior to justice. And Kizaru is notoriously ignorant, and his belief in lazy justice is not just talk. From the fact that he let go of the supernova, paddled in the Summit War, and had no intention of competing for the marshal, it is enough to see that he will follow whoever gains power, and only wants to be his marine admiral safely. As for some principled matters, such as his teacher Zephyr's plan to blow up the entire New World, he did his best to stop it without hesitation. At this time, Marine, as the hero of Marine, Impo is undoubtedly the most powerful. Marine's strength is undoubtedly the first, and the only ones who can compete with it are Marshal Sengoku of the same period, and Marine's chief staff officer, Suru Vice Admiral, is also Garp's friend. Admiral Aokiji is Garp's fanboy. Ace's identity has been found out by Sengoku since he entered the Grand Line, but the measure Sengoku took at that time was to send him an invitation to 7 warlords of the sea. The world government's greatest enemy, the leader of the revolutionary army, is Garp's son. This is no secret among Marines. After all, Garp, as a person with the ability to withdraw fruit, has exposed these secrets countless times. However, even so, Garp's status in Marine is still unshakable, relying on the righteousness in his heart and the incomparable terror in Marine. Before Ace's public execution, Garp approached Sengoku furiously and asked him why he exposed Ace's identity and whether it was necessary to do so. And when Garp was reported that Pluton Rayleigh was auctioned off, he already knew that he was going to fight Whitebeard, but he still laughed, explaining that he didn't know that Ace's identity was going to be exposed at first. Advertisement. He didn't go to Sengoku angrily until he saw that Ace's identity was exposed, which meant that Garp had been tricked, and it was obvious that Sengoku knew that even if his identity was not revealed, Whitebeard would still come to rescue Ace. So this action can only be an order from above, and the ones who can order the Marine Marshal are naturally 5 elders and the leaders of the Celestial Dragons. They urgently need to weaken Garp's position in Marine, because Marine at this time is completely a righteous faction headed by Sengoku and Garp. Many aggressive actions against Celestial Dragons or world government are all intended to be counterproductive. After all, Sengoku, the only Marine with a conqueror's haki, isn't some sort of subservient puppet. So they desperately want to use the opportunity of Ace's execution to break the deadlock that Marine is controlled by the Garp family. And it turns out they did. Sengoku retired, Garp retreated to the background, Aokiji resigned, and Akainu, who believed in absolute justice, became the marshal. After the world conscription, Green Bull and Fujitora didn't bother to talk to him, and Marine's overall cohesion dropped sharply. It made Lucci jump in front of Akainu, and 5 elders was even more angry at Akainu. How much face do you have? And Marshal Marine is not as big as a red-haired face. The entire Marine has been completely reduced to a tool man of the world government, and this is impossible to happen in the top 10 of the Summit War. So at this time, Garp is not much less threatening than the dragon in the eyes of the 5 elders. It's just because of his power and strength that the 5 elders can't do anything to Garp, and Garp has not shown any ambitions, but only fights against pirates to maintain justice at sea, which is beneficial to the world government, so he will let him go. And Kizaru, who is the best ape in Marine, naturally knows it very well, which is why he kicked Luffy back to a safe place several times in Summit War. In his opinion, it would be perfect for this kind of little pirate who has nothing to do with the battle situation to be able to sell Garp a favor. After all, Luffy hadn't even awakened haki at the time. Only Akainu, the 2B, doesn't even understand this bit of worldly sophistication, so Sengoku is held down by Garp, otherwise Akainu's grave will be more than 2 meters long in 2 years. And Kizaru at this time is naturally the same. Luffy is the pride of Garp now, the young Marine Vice Admiral, maybe the next Marine Vice Admiral has a hope, and he is full to find Celestial Dragons to report Luffy for cheating on his father. Do you still want to hang out in Marine? And that's why Luffy brazenly chats with the bear in front of Kizaru. At this time, Shang glanced at the pacifist controlled by Luffy standing behind him, stepped forward and slapped it, and disappeared instantly. Advertisement. Zanpakutō's face changed and he shouted. Hey, bear. What are you doing? Even if it is damaged, you have to repair it. Where did you go? Luffy interrupted impatiently. Can't see, the Shichibukai bear has rebelled, he took the pacifists away, don't you understand? Huh, oh, no, I'll visit you every now and then, and I'm worthless anyway. Single quote closing curly bracket exclamation mark. Then Luffy led the bear to find Zoro and others on another island. Everyone nodded upon hearing this. Besides, this time I beat celestial dragons, it is estimated that the world government has already held a grudge against me. Although they dare not do anything to me publicly, it is hard to say that they are against you, so improve yourself as soon as possible in the limited time. Nami and others looked at Luffy reluctantly. Then you will be okay. Will we not see you for a long time? Then you've made a farewell to dry wool. Ahem, Luffy coughed twice, isn't the atmosphere here, let me show you the village. Luffy said in a low tone, Li Nuohao, to everyone. Zoro, Sanji and others looked a bit ugly, but they understood that what Luffy said was the truth, and many battles along the way were no longer within their reach. He said to everyone with a serious face. You should have also discovered that with your current strength, you can no longer keep up with the next New World voyage, so I will send you to further study. Everyone, go to hell. Zan Taowen looked at Luffy with soaring blood pressure. Nima, it wasn't you who co-authored the report, right? I'll go find you after the big event is over, and that's when we end New World. Street. He turned his head to look at Kizaru, only to see that Kizaru took out the black phone bug again. Moshi Shinoku. Is Sengoku there? Advertisement Chapter 212 Garp. As expected of my grandson. Advertisement. Haven't caught them yet. On the 27th island, Charles Ross in the shape of a fat pig yelled at the Marines below. Now His Highness Admiral Kizaru has gone after them. A Marine Rear Admiral below explained to Saint Charles Ross with an ugly face, I think it's only a matter of time before I catch it, please wait a little longer. Street. Charles Ross yelled at the Marines below angrily, you slow dog slaves. Not only beat me like this, but also made my slaves run away. What do they think of the blood of the creator of this world? Yes, after catching them, I will make them kneel down and beg for mercy. Let them experience what purgatory is. Boom. Marine. 2 greater than. Ashi, I seem to have bumped into something just now, Uncle Kizaru, did you see it? Luffy turned to Kizaru and asked. Kizaru was speechless looking at Celestial Dragons who was knocked down again. It was cool to have a backstage, and he didn't dare to beat Celestial Dragons so blatantly. What did you see? Luffy turned around and asked loudly to the Marines who had been scolded just now. The Marines yelled in unison. We saw a C-947 thief pop out of nowhere, Charles Ross Saint. Luffy nodded in satisfaction. A child can be taught. Zoro and others on the side looked at Luffy speechlessly, you must be addicted to beating. Luffy waved to the Marines. What are you waiting for? Throw Mariajoy at once, it looks so weird. Yes. Marine Rear Admiral saluted and ordered 2 soldiers to carry it down. In the end, Nami, Chopper, Brook, and Vivi were sent away by you. Zoro was speechless behind him. That's normal. My cheap daddy found the place. Zoro, you should have been sent to where Hawkeye is, but Hawkeye should be in Mariajoy now. You can go back with him after the Summit War. What Sanji lacks is Haki's practice. I will ask the old man Garp to send you to Zephyr. That old man is the predecessor of Marine Admiral who taught Marine 3 Admiral, and he will take care of you. Usopp, follow the old man. He is the best at turning waste into treasure. He once taught 2 wastes to become elite Marines. Advertisement. Usopp. Khalifa and Robin, you 2 don't need to fight, Beffa just happened to be on a public trip with me, phew. Go recruit Shichibukai. Frankie is going back to the headquarters to modify the seastone floor of the Mary. When it's done, let him follow Enel back to the moon base. The technology there is much better than the ruins of Vegapunk. I'll get out the Mirage and modify it for you someday. One time. It's a pity that I can't get the reformers in the 7 Dragon Balls, that's the real awesome. What Nami needs to learn is sailing knowledge. I don't know how to cultivate hockey with Brook's skeleton. Chopper wants to research the perfect blue wave ball, so I will be motivated. Vivi will go home and inherit Rabaston. Sending Nami and the others away, Luffy couldn't help but feel a little lost. Having been adventuring together for such a long time, Luffy felt the charm and fetters of the pirate world. Hey, Luffy sighed, turned to Zoro, Sanji and the others and said, what are you feeling? Hurry up and keep the breathing rhythm for me. Even if you are studying hockey, you can't give me the breathing method. Zoro, you feel the ghost a little bit, try to mobilize him, try to mix it one by one after training armament hockey, forget it, I will demonstrate it to you in person. Everyone looked at the nagging Luffy and shrugged. They also saw that Luffy was not in high spirits, and they were about to comfort Luffy. Yaoshi. Luffy clapped his hands, whatever, go to the daughter country to attack the Empress first. Everyone. By Cloud. Robin smiled while covering his mouth. Everyone drove the melee back to naval headquarters with Kizaru's warship. The last time I came was the last time I came. Luffy sighed as he looked at the Marines who were intensively building fortifications. Zoro and the others rolled their eyes in unison. Listening to what you have to say is better than listening to what you have to say. What are they doing? Zoro looked at the engineers on Crescent Bay and asked with a frown. The war is coming. Luffy glanced at the huge steel wall, and he confirmed once again that Sengoku, who was the resourceful general, could not have thought that Whitebeard was attacking from underwater. After all, relying on Sabaody's land island, coding diving, as the resourceful general, how could he not think of it? Just looking at the layout, he deliberately left the evidence in his teeth to be caught by the beard himself. War. With whom? Advertisement. Zoro asked with a frown. You will know in 2 days. You can play soy sauce next to Hawkeye and see the level of the world's top combat power. Luffy said meaningfully. Mihawk is back too, Zoro said with some surprise. I haven't told you all, after this big event is over, you will go to practice with Hawkeye, what have you been listening to? Luffy said speechlessly. Yo, isn't this Hina? Long time no see, miss me. Hina was startled. HMPH. Stay away from me, scare me, Hina is very angry. Hina's face turned black and her arms directly turned into iron fences to tie Luffy firmly. Will you play tricks again? Luffy suddenly saw a figure greeted by the port, and a Shunko appeared directly beside Hina. Hina glared at Luffy angrily, and gave him a military salute. Then the two walked straight towards Marshal Sengoku's office, and before entering the room, they heard Sengoku's frantic roar. So when he heard that he wanted to worship Hawkeye as his teacher, Zoro was not as unwilling as in the original book. Hina looked at the deformed iron fence on the ground with disbelief on his face. Anyway, everyone's goal is the same, at most it is a mutual encouragement. Tisk tisk, why are you talking to me? I'm Vice Admiral, shouldn't you salute as a major? Luffy said to Hina with a teasing smile. Seeing this, Hina hurriedly gave a military salute. Kizaru Admiral is good. Luffy grabbed Hina's waist with his backhand. We two are so polite, we don't need to be respectful from now on. Luffy laughed, and directly broke the thick iron fence. I won't make trouble with you, I will come to drink with you when I have time. Garp, look at your fine grandson. This rubbish. Yuck, just woke up and your grandson was knocked out again. Sent back to Mariajoy. Absolutely lawless. Oh, it's scary, young people nowadays. Zoro nodded. Now he and Hawkeye's goal is to surpass Luffy and reach the supreme state of swordsmanship. There is no sword in the heart, and there is no sword in the hand. Then Luffy and Kizaru heard Garp's hearty laugh. Wow ha ha ha, as expected of my grandson. Kizaru passed behind Hina shaking his head. Advertisement chapter 213 Garp with an extra son. Advertisement. Yo, hello old man, Grandma Sengoku. Luffy opened the door and greeted with a smile. Sengoku. Ha ha ha, as expected, my grandson did a great job. I've long wanted to beat up those nasty trash, ha ha. Garp. Sengoku was shaking with anger. He turned his head and cursed at Luffy. You said you should eliminate the human traffickers, so let's eliminate them. You also eliminated the lawless place. Do you think our marine can't be eliminated? Isn't it because they are all alliance countries behind them? Forget it, you don't have anything to fight celestial dragons. You also fight twice, no, 3 times. Luffy. He robbed the women of the people. Sengoku. Then you still make it up. Or in front of, CP0. Didn't CP0 kill me? How do you know? Sengoku. Sengoku rubbed his brows. What about the 3rd time? I just came back from carrying out justice, and saw that pig scolding our marine dog slave, how can I bear it? FK, if Uncle Kizaru didn't stop me, I would have to kill him. Luffy spoke to Sengoku indignantly, winking at Kizaru as well. Kizaru, who was pouring tea for himself, looked at Luffy blankly. Why did you drag yourself into the water again? Hearing what Luffy said, Kizaru nodded. Ah, yes, I grabbed him. Sengoku patted the table angrily. Why don't you just stop him from playing celestial dragons? Ahem, Kizaru coughed dryly twice, and finally said that I want to beat him too. Sengoku finally sighed helplessly. Fortunately, it wasn't Akainu who went to this time, otherwise Luffy had to be arrested. Let you go back to the headquarters to hide, you hide such a big thing for me, I knew it would be better to let you hang around in the Grand Line, killing Shichibukai is much better than fighting celestial dragons. Sengoku looked at Luffy helplessly, only to find that this guy was teasing his goat. Advertisement. Be more serious, B************** D. Don't be like your B*********** D grandpa, hello. Where's Sengoku, your senbei? I've made the tea, Garp added from the side. Sengoku. Oi underscore. All in all, I don't want to see you two bastards right now. Get the hell out of here. Sengoku snarled at Garp and Luffy. The two looked at each other, and slid out a bag of senbei from the Sengoku table in unison. A frantic Sengoku was left yelling and cursing. The grandpa and grandson who went out looked at each other and smiled, and ran out of the naval headquarters building in a hurry. How can you handle it? Luffy asked Garp. Garp picked his nostrils. As long as we take care of it, it's okay to dispose of the garbage in Bana. Luffy laughed when he heard the words, and then he said to Garp seriously, first want Marine to be independent from the world government. Garp looked at Luffy in surprise and said with a relaxed tone, how can it be so easy? We are a law enforcement agency, not a kingdom government, and we cannot exist alone. And don't underestimate the world government too much. They can rule the world for 800 years without relying on Marines. Luffy glanced at Garp who was careless, and it really carried every simple fact of the D-clan's reputation. Haha, let me just talk about it, old man, you have seen my subordinates, their strength is vastly different from your grandson and me, help me find a teacher for them, and practice hard. Luffy didn't mention this anymore, and said his original purpose. No problem, the talented sharpshooter Duddy you sent over last time is very talented, and now he has already made a name for himself in Marine. Garp smiled at Luffy. How? Is it at the level of a 4 Emperor's cadre? Luffy's eyes lit up when he heard that. Garp immediately rolled his eyes wildly. How could it be so fast? He has been delayed for too long, but now that he has Commodore-level strength, attaching Haki to the bullet is no longer a problem. Shout! Luffy looked disgusted when he heard the words. With his current strength, even if he didn't load the template, the Commodore was not much different from cannon fodder. Then Luffy told Garp about the training plan for Usopp and Sanji. Garp glanced at Luffy. You've got your eye on Zephyr. What do you mean by looking at Zephyr? I am caring for the left-behind elderly. By the way, help me keep an eye on Edward Wable's whereabouts. Luffy said with a smile. Advertisement. Garp frowned. Want to win over Zephyr? Don't underestimate that guy. He is the son of Whitebeard who claims to be Whitebeard. Although Whitebeard didn't admit it, he has the strength comparable to that of the young Whitebeard. Cut off Zephyr's arm, absolutely reached the Admiral level, you are still too young. Luffy shrugged. That's not sure. Tell your 2 subordinates to come find me later, and I'll send you the man. Garp stopped persuading Luffy when he saw Luffy's appearance. Seeking flowers oh. Suddenly Garp said. Ace's work, well done. I saw that old man Rayleigh. I ignored him in order to get rid of that group of scumbags. What happened to GR13, and what about Ace? Luffy remembered Ace at this moment. Garp laughed when he heard the words. You threw Ace to Rayleigh and told him about Blackbeard. This old guy has been trapping Ace and not letting him leave the island. The two fought every day, which alarmed the Marine on Sabaody Island. I didn't know until you reported to me that you had captured Ace. Later, after Blackbeard captured the captains, Ace became even more quarrelsome. As a result, Whitebeard came to find him not long ago, fought with Rayleigh and took Ace away. The nobleman who wanted to rob and buy him is going to build a bar for his wife. Point 0. Garp laughed gloatingly at this. Luffy was also speechless when he heard that. No wonder Rayleigh looked at him so unkindly at that time. If there were no reporters there, Rayleigh would probably have fought with Luffy. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? When the summit war is over in 2 days, do you want to say hello to those guys and give Ace some water? Luffy smiled at Garp. No, he deserves to be beaten. Let him be a soldier and a pirate. Garp blew his beard and stared and said, this shitty Whitebeard, Lousy's grandson dares to move, I'm not Garp the Fist if I don't shit on him. Luffy comforted the angry Kelly. It's okay, Ace calls you grandpa and Whitebeard's father. You are a generation taller than Whitebeard, so you don't suffer. Garp was taken aback when he heard the words, and then a happy smile appeared on his face. You were right. Then I must communicate with my son, haha. Empress Shichibukai hasn't been recruited yet, has she? Luffy spoke abruptly. She's near the headquarters, and she doesn't seem to have returned to Amazon Lily, why? Do you want to go? Garp looked Luffy's body up and down. Luffy touched his chin. It would be great to help you bring back a granddaughter-in-law. Garp rolled his eyes when he heard the words. You go find the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral to change shifts, don't die there, and return your granddaughter-in-law. Who doesn't know that women in daughter country hate men the most, and they don't even allow people to pass near the coast? Come here, my crew gave it to you. Luffy can't wait to find Robin and Khalifa and prepare to go to Daughter Island. Advertisement Chapter 214 Robin, he's hot. Lost the fire. Advertisement. Why did Robin and Khalifa accompany you to the legendary daughter country? And I want to follow this old man. Sanji frantically pointed at Garp and yelled at Luffy in despair, I won't do it. I'm going to Daughter Island. That's my lifelong dream. Robin. Isn't your dream to find all blue? Khalifa. I said before that the dream is to eat the transparent fruit. Wah, I don't care. I'm going to Daughter's Island. I'm going to. Boom. Garp stretched out his fists, picked his nostrils and dragged the fainted Sanji. You little brother is really too noisy. Usopp on the side was scared out of his wits, and Zoro frantically output to Sanji, idiot. Luffy smiled and boarded the warship heading for 9 Snake Island, and Suo, 040, also decided to go to Zephyr to learn Haki before the Summit War. The warship goes directly to Calm Belt through the Gate of Justice. If Calm Belt is set, naval headquarters will be less than 2 days away from Daughter Island. Robin asked Luffy curiously. I heard that Amazon Lily is a country made up of women, is this true? Luffy nodded. Khalifa behind him pushed his glasses and said to Robin. The residents of Amazon Lily are the female fighting nation, 9 snakes. They were born as warriors and carried all the family and labor on their shoulders. Equals beautiful, W. Sometimes the islanders would go out to sea and come back with a baby, but it would only be a girl. The island has an absolute norm of men's ban, hundreds of years ago. Once a man enters this place, he will be wiped out. The emperor here will suffer from lovesickness almost every time, and the severe one will die. The reason is that the pain of missing the other party but not seeing it will gradually weaken people, and then they will be overwhelmed by their own thoughts. The world government once thought they wanted to send people to pass through this shortcoming and subdue Amazon Lily, but they were expelled without even entering the island. The female warriors of Amazon Lily all know how to use Haki. It can be said that they are a terrifying tribe of all people. Even the world government is unwilling to provoke this group of women. Advertisement. Khalifa told Robin the information he got through CP9. Robin had a strange expression on his face when he heard this. It's really a magical race. When you want to have a baby, just knocked out and dragged to the boat he. Luffy rubbed his chin and showed a manly smile. Khalifa mercilessly said, the ones who have the priority to choose a mate are those King Kong Barbies who are stronger than men. The black-bellied Robin also followed up and said, maybe it will end up first last asterisk. The fantasy in Luffy's mind burst like a bubble in an instant. Are you two devils? For the next day or so, Luffy was hard at work practicing on the deck. Hitsugaya Tōshirō is a once-in-a-thousand-year genius in the Shinigami world, became the captain of the 10th squad at a young age. His template is quite wow for Luffy's bonus. Especially for Conqueror's Haki, which is the ascension of psychic energy or soul, has an extremely significant speed. It has only been 4 days since loading the template, and Luffy already feels that his Conqueror's Haki has doubled, and the reduction rate has also increased from the initial 10% to 20%. And Luffy discovered an extremely interesting ability. I saw him press the Zanpakutō handle on himself. Luffy, who was wearing a deadly costume, broke away from his body in an instant. This is exactly what protagonist Kurosaki Ichigo looks like when he transforms into a Shinigami. As we all know, Shinigami belongs to the pure soul body, and ordinary people in this world cannot see the body shape of Shinigami. Luffy smiled and walked over to Robin, and slapped Robin on the body. Robin, who was reading a book, was startled. Who? She looked around the warship, and there was no one on the deck except for the marine soldiers on guard at the watchtower. Could it be the guy who ate the transparent fruit? Robin's face changed slightly. Just as she was about to call Luffy, she felt someone hug her up. Her mouth seemed to be blocked by something and she could only make a whining sound. And just when Robin was about to cry, Khalifa came out from the cabin with a drink, and Robin immediately relaxed his body and regained his freedom. Advertisement. Luffy. Robin exclaimed. Luffy, who was lying on the deck, ran to Robin's side in a flash. What's the matter? Robin was about to speak when he saw Luffy, who was licking his lips. Robin gave Luffy a hard look. She didn't know at this moment that Luffy must have awakened some weird ability again. I feel like something is taking advantage of me, if I catch him and castrate him. Robin smiled and said something that made Luffy's hair stand on end. Luffy coughed twice. I feel like I have a new understanding recently, so I'll practice first. Saying that, Luffy pulled out Zanpakutō and jumped off the warship directly. Ah, Luffy Vice Admiral. This is Calm Belt. Marine on the observation deck looked at Luffy leaving the warship in horror. Suddenly countless huge sea kings suddenly rose from the calm sea. Luffy, however, is unafraid. Sit on the frost. Hyōrinmaru. Bankai. Daiguren Hyōrinmaru. Immediately, Luffy turned into Shinigami and harvested wantonly on Calm Belt, and super giant sea kings were frozen on the sea like ice sculptures. Khalifa next to Robin pushed his glasses strangely. Why is Master Luffy so excited today? Robin blushed, glared bitterly at Luffy, who was showing off his skills, and spat. It's hot, it's too hot. After speaking, she angrily ran to the sun lounger to continue reading, but the feeling just now made her feel hot all over. The black-bellied Robin blushed like a little girl for a long time, and covered her face with the book and pretended to sleep. At this time, Luffy is still a hot batch even with the 1,000-year-old ice attached to his body. Looking at the template restoration rate of only 25%, Luffy vowed to exchange Zanpakutō even if he took out all the achievement points. Joe, it's so good. At this moment, the outline of an island appeared on the sea level, and Luffy, who was flying in the air, narrowed his eyes and flew directly towards Nine Snake Island. Advertisement Chapter 215 Frozen 9 Snakes Island, Rescue the Ragged Young Lady. Advertisement. This is Daughter Island, Amazon Lily, where men are prohibited from entering. After they grow up, they are like conscripts, become Amazon warriors and join the 9 snake pirates to go to sea, and then make themselves pregnant by knocking out the man they like, and return to Amazon Lily after they are pregnant, and it is incredible that all the children born it's a girl. Surrounded by a dense virgin forest is a steep mountain. On the cliffs of the high mountains are engraved with the words, 9 snakes. A huge cave was opened up on the top of the mountain, and inside the cave was a country built like a fortress, the Daughter Country. At this time, Luffy was staring at the mushrooms in the forest outside the island in a daze. He is considering whether to eat these poisonous mushrooms. After all, he can enjoy the ultimate health care treatment that is not suitable for children. Finally, Luffy stood up and patted the dirt on his body and gave up the invasion plan. Just kidding, I am the Empress's man, how could such an ordinary person be able to enter this dual law? Before finishing thinking, Luffy's eyes widened instantly. I saw Margaret and Yafilandola standing in front of me wearing sexy primitive animal skins and pointing bows and arrows at me. Who are you? Why did you appear on our island? Margaret asked 14 Luffy loudly. Luffy withdrew his aesthetic gaze, showing the appearance of an outsider. Olewa Luffy, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. However, it is Margaret who greets him with Haki's arrow. Luffy grinned, stretched out his hand, and the arrow was instantly fixed on Kongshin by Rinnegan's repelling force. Nani. Margaret's expression changed, she opened her bow and arrows, and several arrows flew towards Luffy. As expected of an Amazon female warrior, everyone knows Haki is not just kidding. Luffy looked at Haki's entwined black arrows and sighed. You must know that even he has only reached the 3rd stage of Haki's external release. And it is obvious that the female warriors of Amazon have all reached the 3rd stage of Haki's external release. Luffy didn't let go of his hand, and glared, Shenluo Tianzheng. With a bang, a violent repulsion directly sent Margaret and Yafilandora flying. And Luffy also took the opportunity that Shunpo wanted to hold the two flying upside down in his arms. However, Yafilandora's huge size directly made Luffy feel lonely. Advertisement. As soon as Margarita was hugged, Yafilandola's thigh hit Luffy's face, and the three of them rolled and smashed countless trees all the way. When Luffy got up from a weak place, he saw a large number of Amazon female warriors in Biki mud holding bows and arrows and staring at him. Luffy raised his hands in embarrassment to show that he had done nothing, but in the end Luffy was escorted back to the village by angry female soldiers and locked up. Don't go, you listen to my explanation. First, I'm really Marine Vice Admiral, I have something to do with your Empress, really. Luffy leaned against the side of the cage and shouted to the defenders who were about to leave. However, what responded to him was the cold white eyes and densely packed white thighs of the female soldiers. Have you heard? This is a man. Let me go, I want to see it too. He moved. Looks like he has no breasts at all. I heard from Granny knew that men's bottoms seem to be different from ours. Strange, stiff creature. The hair is disheveled, so thin, and looks fragile. However, I heard that he knocked down Margaret and Yafilandora with one blow. I wonder if it's true. Yafilandora, what do you think? The tall Yafilandra pointed blankly at herself and didn't know how to answer. Luffy scratched his head as he looked at the female warriors who looked at him like monkeys. A portal in the air opened, and Luffy walked in straight away. See you later, beauties. I'm going to eat first. My god, a man can open the door with air. He ran away. He ran away. He ran away. Go find the soldiers protecting the country. Yafilandola shouted. Aren't you the one? That's right, I'm also a national defender. Yafilandora scratched her head blankly. Margaret on the side couldn't stand it any longer, she dragged Yafilandora and ran towards the captain's office. Advertisement. At this time, Luffy had already slipped away through the fruit of the door. At this time, after Luffy's deliberate development of the door fruit, it can already link to the door he has touched in a short distance. Crunch. The hatch of the warship opened, and Luffy came out from the warehouse. A marine soldier was taken aback by Luffy's figure, and when he saw that it was Luffy, he saluted quickly. Luffy Vice Admiral, Isle of Nine Snakes has arrived, and the people of Daughter Kingdom don't seem to welcome us. They said that Empress Boya Hancock is not in Daughter Kingdom at this time, and they just let us stay in the sea and wait. The soldiers hurriedly reported to Luffy. Luffy waved his hand indifferently. He knew that the Empress would arrive soon. In his memory, the Empress returned to Nine Snake Island a week before the public execution. Although he couldn't remember the exact time, but at this time she was away from the public execution. There are only 10 days left. Sit on the frosty sky. Hyōrinmaru. In an instant, Sea King's was directly surrounded by ice, and the sea connected to Sea King's lower body was also frozen. And Luffy appeared in front of Sea King's with a shunpo. Luffy looked at his masterpiece and nodded in satisfaction. I believe that those ragged girls on Nine Snake Island will wear more clothes this day. It's easy to get tired of seeing too much. At this time, the daughter of the former king of the middle school, Granny Nu, was shocked to see the ice-covered Nine Snake Island, and her face changed drastically. This is Admiral Aokiji coming here in person. Then he looked at the frozen Nine Snake Island below and nodded in satisfaction. No wonder Aokiji always likes to mutter some English. This B character is really extraordinary. The marine soldiers sat down on the ground in fright when they saw the huge ice sculpture with its mouth open on the warship. But Mr. Vice Admiral, we are now in the calm belt. Even if the bottom of the Seastone ship can temporarily hide our aura, we will still be attacked by the Sea Kings after a long time. Ice Age. Zanpakutō instantly transformed into Shikai form, and the half-moon-shaped chain behind the hilt entangled Sea Kings like an ice dragon. Really? Then wait, isn't this a move that only Aokiji Admiral uses? Just as they were talking, a huge Sea Kings rushed up from the bottom of the sea, with its mouth wide open, it wanted to swallow the warship. Luffy let out a breath of cold air. And the Empress Hancock, who is not far from Nine Snake Island, is also confused. Hai Bing hurriedly explained to Luffy. 120. Am I going the wrong way? Where is the sea? Advertisement Chapter 216 The Cursed Empress Hancock. Advertisement. It actually stopped in the middle of the Monster Sea area. Did you make the ice near Nine Snake Island? On the cold ice, Z Fanhua, the smaller cadre of the Nine Snake Pirates, questioned loudly to Luffy, who was cooking hot pot on the fence. You don't have much to wear, isn't it cold? It's winter now. Luffy stretched out his head to look at the members of the Nine Snake Pirates shivering on the ice and asked jokingly. Are you courting death, Marine? Purple Fanhua pointed the bow and arrow at Luffy angrily, and the black hockey was attached to the arrow. Don't do it. Although you are 7 warlords of the sea, the Marines have mastered the technology of sailing on the calm belt. Attacking the naval headquarters Vice Admiral will bring disaster to you Amazon lilies. Luffy took a mouthful of noodles and smiled at the girls walking below. Even according to the government's agreement, we didn't enter the coast of Daughter Island within 3 kilometers. Then what are you here for? All the cadres looked at Luffy nervously, as if they couldn't wait to send Luffy and others away. I almost forgot. On the orders of Naval Headquarters, I came to pick up Boa Hancock from 7 Warlords of the Sea for the Naval Headquarters rally. Luffy smiled and said to the cadres below. What a coincidence, Lord G won't come out. We've said it many times. Everyone reprimanded Luffy loudly, but the Empress in the sedan chair did not respond at all. Seeing this, Luffy looked at the van strangely. Supposedly the Empress should step down to show her prestige at this time. But Luffy sensed that Empress Hancock's breath was quite weak through observation haki. Your queen is injured. Luffy frowned and asked the warrior below. Nonsense. Only the Empress will not get hurt. That's right. The Empress is just a little tired from the long journey. Oh, really? Luffy rubbed his chin and looked at the group of nervous cadres below. Let me take a look. What? The cadres were startled, and just about to block it, they found that Luffy had already appeared at the door of the van. Stop. The cadres were shocked. They didn't expect Luffy's speed to be so fast. Advertisement. The loss of captives. A series of pink arrows shot out from the door curtain. It's so dangerous. Luffy jumped frivolously, dodging the arrow shot by the Empress. A few days ago, Fufu, the one who answered you, was lying to you. Fufu. We will not participate in the war, hoo-hoo. But I also hope that you will deprive me of the title of Shichibukai. Hancock panted to Luffy through the curtain. Luffy grinned, and it really looked like a sick and delicate Empress in the original book. I just don't know why he was injured so badly that he couldn't even speak. Luffy did not immediately refute Hancock like the flying squirrel Vice Admiral did, but walked back to the warship leisurely. You still have 7 days to think about it. The public execution will start in Marineford in 10 days. We need 2 days to travel. If you don't agree, I don't think the Marine will let you go after the war with Whitebeard. Seeing this, the cadres breathed a sigh of relief. I don't need you to worry about that. Speaking of which, a group of members of the Nine Snake Pirates pulled the Empress towards Nine Snake Island. Do you think she'll go? Robin asked a thoughtful Luffy. Normally, no, Luffy said with a smile. Then we'll just wait here. Isn't there an abnormal method? Luffy greeted Robin and Khalifa with a smile and said, come, eat hot pot, it's still suitable for hot pot in such a cold day. Robin looked at Luffy suspiciously, not knowing what he meant. While Luffy was eating hot pot comfortably, Snake Island fell into a panic. The Nationals and National Defense warriors who greeted Snake in a grand manner did not welcome the arrogant Empress Hancock. Instead, the anxious cry of two sisters, Boa Sandersonia and Boa Marigold, Doctor. Come doctor, sister is sick. The citizens who were waiting to see the beautiful face of Snake Princess were shocked. When the cadres hurriedly lifted the bed down, they found Hancock who was flushed and sweating, panting heavily. The Nine Snake Pirates anxiously carried Hancock into the palace, and the guards hurriedly summoned the royal doctor of the daughter country into the palace. Advertisement. At this time, a short old lady rushed into the palace anxiously, and shouted to Hancock, Snake. Those government guys' boats are at sea, right? That's the boat to welcome you, right? The world government wanted to summon you, so why did you come here? Why didn't you agree to their request? Look at the sea around Snake Island is frozen. Only Admiral Aokiji can do this, right? As long as you participate in the war, you can keep the agreement. With your strength, you will never die. Granny Nu chatted endlessly to the Empress on the bed. The Empress, who was blushing weakly, got up and said coquettishly, but, I am very scared. It really is this curse. Just as she was about to tell her the dire consequences of not accepting the call from the world government, he saw something was wrong with Hancock. What? Can't tell. Okay, what prehistoric island did you pass by? Grandma Nu asked nervously. Boya Marigold on the side explained to Granny Nu, we met a group of pirates at sea, and not long after fighting them, my sister contracted this disease. Granny Nu turned her head to look at the imperial doctor who was treating Snake Girl and asked, have you found anything? Grandma Nu's eyes were red in an instant. Kawaii, like a puppy. Granny Nu looked around, and the photos of Luffy being interviewed by reporters in the Sabaody Archipelago were impressively displayed on the newspapers. Boya Sandersonia quickly explained. Boya Sandersonia added. That's right, the constant high fever persists, and we always hold a newspaper around our arms. We really have no choice, so we hurried to ask the imperial doctor to see a doctor. Seeing Hancock's appearance, Granny Nu's expression changed drastically. Then she shook her head violently to regain her senses. No. Now is not the time to talk about this. Hancock turned her head and lay down arrogantly. Don't worry about it. Not at all, we have been plundering pirates at the entrance of New World, and have not landed on new islands. The imperial doctor shook his head with an ugly face. We can't find out the cause at all, but Lady Shiji's body is really hot. Boya Sandersonia hurriedly took the newspaper from Hancock and handed it to Granny Nu. Before he finished speaking, Hancock passed out directly. Granny Nu carefully observed Hancock's appearance, and suddenly her face changed greatly. Could it be? Quickly bring the newspaper she has been holding. What's wrong with you? Granny Nu frowned at the weak Hancock. Advertisement chapter 217 Hancock dedicated to. Advertisement. What curse? Sister Santa Sonia hurriedly asked Granny Nu. Quickly tell me all the details of what happened before Snake G fell ill. Granny Nu asked Santa Sonia seriously. Santa Sonia was taken aback by Granny Nu, and hastily told everyone's experiences along the way in detail. It turns out that the Nine Snake Pirates used the identity of Shichibukai to go to the exit of the Fishman Island of the New World Red Line to kill the pirates who had just entered New World to subsidize the supplies of the daughter country. As a result, a newspaper fell from the sky. Sabaody Archipelago Celestial Dragons was attacked. Number 1 Kishu Island population auction site was destroyed, and the news that the human traffickers were wiped out caught Hankuchen's attention. Another day later, a group of pirates came out from the entrance of the Fishman Island and were attacked by the Nine Snake Pirates. During the fight, the other party used the secret of Luffy beating the celestial dragons 3 times and killing CP0 as a bargaining chip in order to survive. The life of Hancock, the empress of the 7 warlords of the sea directly under her. As a result, it is conceivable that the group of pirates had turned into stones and sank to the bottom of the sea. And since that day, Boa Hancock began to collect the deeds of this guy named Monkey D. Luffy. He found that he seemed to be fighting against the world government all the way, defying the power to destroy lawless places, destroying the human auction that had auctioned himself, and even taking the celestial dragons in his eyes and fighting against the sky. 313 No one dares to resist celestial dragons. The iron law was broken again by man after many years. With the increasing understanding of Luffy, Hancock, who lived under the shadow of celestial dragons since he was a child, fell in love with this man he had never met before, and eventually fell in love with the sick man and fell ill on the road. Grandma knew. What kind of curse is this? Aren't all the Gorgon's curses we made up a lie? Santasonia asked Granny New anxiously. Granny New sat on the ground decadently. God's will. Granny New walked to the side of Hancock who was moaning in pain. Mon. Ah, Hancock groaned in pain. Luffy. Hancock moaned even more painfully. Grandma New, stop joking. The cadres hurriedly stopped Granny New as they watched the serpentine getting more and more serious. I'm not kidding. Granny New said seriously, and then she covered her head in pain. How could this be, this hateful and ignorant curse? Or a virus? Advertisement. Virus. Everyone looked at Granny New strangely. Do you have a clue? At this time, Hancock opened her eyes with difficulty. She looked at the previous king who had saved her and begged for help like a little girl. Grandma New, I feel so sad. Will this concubine die? Granny New was silent for a while. That's right, she will die. Nani, what are you talking about? Stop joking. Santa Sonia and Marigold retorted loudly to Granny New. However, Granny New said with a serious face, the last emperor also died of this disease. Everyone looked at Grandma New in panic. However, Granny New continued to give everyone bad news. I heard that it was the same when I was in office, but in fact I also suffered from the same disease, so I left the country and survived. Granny New said with a serious face. Marigold, you go to contact Marine and say that you want Snake Princess to join the battle, but you must go and get Monkey D. Luffy to meet her in person. What? Granny New, what are you thinking? My sister is already sick like this. However, before the two of them finished speaking, Hancock stood up from the hospital bed as if nothing happened. Get ready. I want to take a shower and change clothes. It's just that the blushing on her face proved that she was not as calm as she appeared. Granny New looked at Hancock's neat figure, and her heart was full of disbelief. How lucky you are, Monkey D. Luffy, you, who have never masked your face, have moved this iceberg. Seeing that Hancock's condition improved, Marigold and the others showed joy on their faces. Go and ring the alarm. Sister is ready to take a bath. For a while, the sound of gongs in the royal city continued. All the residents of the city ran towards the outside of the city one after another. Layers of fences covered the entire castle, and the cadres sat outside the fences to prevent anyone from breaking into the bathroom. Soon there was no one in the huge royal city except the 3 Hancock sisters. Marigold took off the queen's clothes and Hancock stepped on the water and entered the bath. Luffy, is he coming here? Hancock buried his chest in front of his chest. Will he dislike my pirate status as a marine? Suddenly Hancock thought of the dragon's hoof print on his back, and a look of despair appeared on his face. Yes, I was marked as a slave, and as a marine, he will definitely look down on me. Advertisement. The more Hancock thought about it, the more sad he became, and a drama of Chong Yao's love and separation had already been imagined in his mind. A fever-like flush appeared on her face again, and as she felt more and more obstacles between herself and Luffy, she was about to faint at this time. Suddenly, a transparent door suddenly opened in the air of the swimming pool. Luffy's figure stepped out from the air door. Yushi, it's finally time for Hancock to take a bath. Then you just need to follow what Luffy did in the original plot. In this pirate world, the most beautiful human being in the world, second only to Shirahoshi, will be successfully captured by myself. Luffy looked up into the bath with delight. Just when he was about to replay the original Luffy's plot exactly, he suddenly felt a wave of warm jade rushing towards him. Hancock's weak and charming voice reached Luffy's ears, even if it's an illusion. Huh. 2 hours later, Luffy was lying on a sofa, holding a cigarette in his hand, looking at Hancock lying in his arms, feeling a little suspicious of life. Are you dreaming? Did I unlock some hidden level? Why didn't Hancock play his cards according to the routine? What is the meaning of those lines that I worked so hard to memorize before? Looking at the Tianlong hoofprint on Hancock's back, I saw that he gathered Reiatsu in his hand, and the green light of Kaido in Kido appeared on his hand. He slowly put his hand on Hancock's back, and the mark of celestial dragons that represented disgrace disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although Hitsugaya Tōshirō is not specialized in treating Shinigami, Kaido, one of the 3 ways of Kido, can still be used. Healing scars is an easy task for Kaido. And Hancock, who was still asleep, opened her eyes. Am I still dreaming? Then she closed her eyes and opened them again. Hancock. Advertisement Chapter 218 The bathing time is extended today. Open black lens bracket ask monthly ticket close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Hancock didn't scream as loudly as the other little goddesses. He turned around and walked towards his clothes, even walking steadily. After all, this kind of small pain is not worth mentioning to a strong Shichibukai level. But on Luffy's unseen face, there was panic. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Why is Monkey D. Luffy here? Has he discovered the secret of me? At this time, Hancock's mind was full of mud. She suppressed the deer jumping in her heart, put the clothes on her body, and turned to face Luffy as if nothing had happened. She calmly asked Luffy, I don't know why Luffy Vice Admiral is here. Luffy took a look at himself, definitely put on his clothes first, then Luffy said seriously, well, I'm actually here to tell you about going to the war against Whitebeard. Do you believe it? Quote. I believe. Hancock nodded, and it was only then that she realized that it was her cold-hearted Monkey D. Luffy who had fought against her outside of Nine Snakes Island. Hancock, an Amazon warrior who survived by robbing men to carry on his family, didn't know that he was suffering from lovesickness. At this time, countless Mary Sue-like love stories had appeared in her mind, and by the way, she added an 18th level of beauty to Luffy. Luffy on the opposite side looked embarrassed. Although he really wanted to take the Empress under his command, he never thought that the two would progress so quickly. However, Hancock on the opposite side seemed to have fallen in love with him for a long time, and kept silent about what happened just now. So much so that he doesn't even know what to do next. What, behind you? Luffy wants to surprise Hancock. Hancock trembled for a moment, bit his lip with tears in his eyes and lowered his head. Sure enough, you also look down on me. Looking at the poor Hancock with tears streaming down his face, Luffy's heart beat wildly with distress, as if he had committed a heinous crime. He finally knew the feelings of those who were petrified by Hancock and those who were dazzled by beauty. After all, he came from time travel, not that titanium alloy Jeong Luffy. Don't cry. I don't dislike you. No, I just want to tell you that I healed the scar on your back. If you don't believe me, touch it, don't cry. Luffy looked at Hancock who was weeping like a little girl, and hurried forward to comfort him. Hancock suddenly raised his head and looked at Luffy in surprise. Really? You really don't dislike me? Advertisement. Of course. Luffy's firm tone filled Hancock with joy, and suddenly she remembered what Luffy said, and reacted suddenly. What did you just say? I said I'll help you remove the scar on your back. Luffy said with a smile. Hancock was so excited that he took off the cloak again without hesitation, and stood in front of the mirror. Sure enough, the dragon's hoofprint, which originally represented shame, had now become a smooth back. Hancock burst into tears of surprise. For so many years, the three sisters have been deceiving the people, lying to them that they were cursed by Gorgon so that they could not be seen from behind. Now she can finally be freed from the so-called curse. Suddenly her eyes lit up, and she asked Luffy, can't you remove other people's scars? Luffy smiled and nodded. Of course. Hancock was overjoyed when he heard the words, and hurriedly called the two younger sisters in. Sister. Boa Sandersonia and Boa Marigold walked in with their heads down. In order to prevent the Cadres from discovering the secret behind it, the three guard each other and take a bath. However, as soon as the two entered the door, they saw Luffy standing not far away. Man. Marigold hastily and nervously squared off to Luffy. Sandersonia also hurriedly picked up the cloak on the ground to cover Hancock. However, Hancock smiled and shook her head. She gave her clean back to her two younger sisters. In the future, we don't have to worry about the secret being discovered. Sandersonia and Marigold's eyes filled with shock as the slave symbol disappeared from Hancock's body. Sister, how did you do it? Marigold asked anxiously. Hancock looked at Luffy and introduced excitedly. This is Monkey D. Luffy Vice Admiral. He helped me get rid of this nightmare. And he can help you get rid of this shame too. The two sisters turned to Luffy expectantly. Luffy quickly nodded to the two of them. Don't worry, it's very simple. You just keep your backs facing me, leave your backs out. Asking for flowers. After hearing the words, the two turned back without hesitation, closing their eyes full of hope. Advertisement. Then, under Hancock's gaze, Luffy easily erased the dragon's hoofprints on their backs with Kaido. The three hugged each other with tears of joy and cried loudly. Seeing this, Luffy was speechless and dying. There are many kinds of devil fruit in pirate world, but they are in the blind spot when it comes to scar repair. But look at Zoro's wounds all over his body and the cross on Luffy's chest in the original book. But under Shinigami's Kido, the healing of such scars is not easy, and even Luffy can easily remove the scars using chakra. After all, with the help of Uncle Snake, Hokage's biotechnology is at least 800 years ahead of pirates. After all, it is outrageous to have asexual reproduction. 0. Time passed bit by bit. On the warship, an air door opened from the captain's bedroom. Hancock even asked Marigold to tell the Cadres guarding outside the door that the bathing time will be extended today. Open black lens bracket Shinigami Hitsugaya Tōshirō template time limit has expired close black lens bracket. Luffy sat down on the bed and lay down directly. Don't mention it. I met a terrifying giant sea kings. I fought with her for 3,000 rounds regardless of the outcome, and finally I was able to get away with a narrow victory at the last moment. 17. New template is random. After hearing this, Robin's face was full of surprise. There are still sea kings that you can't deal with. P.S. It's a new month. Ask for a monthly pass, or it will be cleared. It looks too embarrassing. Yee. After the excitement, the three thanked Luffy again, and their eyes were full of gratitude. Luffy turned his head and saw that Robin was sitting on a chair with a book looking at him strangely. Congratulations on getting the new template. The 7 deadly sins of the world, sins of pride, Ace Kano, close black lens bracket. Ah, where did the captain go? How did it become like this? Luffy looked helplessly at the system prompt in his mind. An intellectual voice came from the side. The unusually thin Luffy came out of the door tremblingly holding his waist. Luffy swallowed helplessly. I can't help it, the plugin expired, it's the first time I encountered a template with debuff, I was almost ashamed. The rising sun slowly rises from the sea level. Advertisement Chapter 219 The Sin of Pride and the Legend of the Gorgon War Open black lens bracket Ask monthly ticket close black lens bracket. Advertisement. P.S. Ask for a monthly pass at the beginning of the month. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket currently loaded template. Sin of Pride, Ace Kano, close black lens bracket. Equipment. God Axe Rita, a very huge and heavy one-handed axe. Ace Kano at night can't lift it. Meliodas can only drag it. Even Jolin, who specializes in force, feels very heavy. Close black lens bracket. Artifact characteristics. Filling and radiation. Explanation. It can absorb and store the huge heat emitted by Ace Kano, and release it freely. Close black lens bracket. Innate ability. Sunshine is related to the magic power of the sun. Personality and physique will change drastically with the time of day and night. The midnight level is the lowest level of the kingdom's paladins. As the sun rises, the power gradually increases, and it reaches its peak at noon. 983, has great magic power and danger. Battle status. Night, self-strength attenuation of 99%, early morning, self-strength attenuation of 50%, morning, self-strength undamaged, close to noon, own magic power increased by 500%, 1 minute at noon, Ace Kano's power increases every hour as the sun rises until it reaches its apogee at noon. At that time, for just 1 minute, he will transform into the invincible avatar known as, Only One in Heaven and One in Heaven. Close black lens bracket. Skill Move 1. Cruel Sun, the sun without mercy, use magic power to release extremely high temperature fireballs to attack the opponent. Close black lens bracket. Skill Move 2. Explosive Arrogance, launch the merciless sun at the opponent, and then detonate the fireball generated by the magic power of arrogance. Close black lens bracket. Skill Move 3. Super Slash Dust Slash, use the magical power stored by the Axe Rita to attack the opponent. Close black lens bracket. Skill Move 4. Holy Sword Ace Kano, Holy Lance Ace Kano, use huge magic power to slash at the opponent with hand knife and finger pistol. Close black lens bracket. Ultimate Skill. Heaven and Earth, I am the only one ultimate, 1 minute at noon, Ace Kano burns his own life and enters the state at the cost of burning his own life. In this state, Ace Kano can confront the demon god king head on. Character Reset Countdown. 6 days, 20 hours and 48 minutes. Character Reduction Degree, 50%. Anime, 7 Deadly Sins, and Shinigami, are like One Piece, and Hokage Ninja, World. In terms of top-level combat power, the Demon King may be inferior to Yhwach or the Spirit King, but the combat power of the 7 Deadly Sins and the 10 Commandments is much stronger than the ordinary Shinigami captains of the Shinigami 13th Division. Of course, those at the level of the captain are stronger than most of the members of the 7 Deadly Sins. Advertisement. Like the crime of arrogance, Ace Kano is definitely a weird freak in the 7 Deadly Sins. 6 guarantees 1 at night and 1 guarantees 6 during the day is the strange magic of Ace Kano. Luffy once saw an official data. Taking the Dough level among the 7 Deadly Sins is the data, Ace Kano at night only has a pitiful 15 mana. And a quarter of an hour before noon, the Dough level directly soared to 114,000, and it continued to rise. Until 1 minute at noon, when the one, Heaven and Earth, I am the only one, comes out, who will fight. And the strength of strength is not absolute, even at night, Ace Kano can use hypnosis himself to stimulate the sun in his heart and make his combat powers soar to 28,800 fighting level. Although the strength is far inferior to the one's noon 1 minute, it is enough to deal with most battles. And Ace Kano's strange magic power makes Ace Kano such a powerful template. Ignore the huge difference in strength and directly have a 50% reduction rate. This surprised Luffy when the template was switched last night. Of course, it was only a moment, because Luffy, who was fighting, felt the powerful debuff brought to him by the template of this dog day in the next second. If Luffy hadn't bet on his dignity as a man and defeated the enemy with his strong will, he might have been defeated at that time. Even so, after more than 10 hours of fighting, Luffy is still sore all over. Until the morning sun slowly rises. Luffy's body began to swell at a speed visible to the naked eye, and soon turned into a handsome man with 8-pack abs. Very good. Luffy felt the power in his body. At this time, his strength has fully recovered. After all, 50% of his attenuation includes the power of Ace Kano, the crime of arrogance. At this time, he is not inferior to his original self in terms of strength. Luffy stepped out of the cabin, and the morning sun shone on Luffy's face. Go, come with me to meet Empress Hancock. Luffy waved to Luo Bing and Khalifa. Advertisement. Khalifa pushed his glasses, took a note and said seriously to Luffy, the terms signed between the world government and Nine Snake Island, we are not allowed to enter within 3 kilometers of Nine Snake Island. Luffy chuckled. The treaty is invalid for me. As he said that, he jumped off the warship and stood on the frozen sea with Zanpakutō before walking towards Snake Island. Robin and Khalifa exchanged glances, and quickly followed. When they arrived on the island, Khalifa looked around vigilantly, because she knew that all the female warriors on Nine Snake Island were perverts of Grandmaster Hockey. The entire country is full of CP9. Just ask if you are afraid. However, she did not wait for the female warriors to attack. Instead, under the leadership of the two sisters Marigold and Sandersonia, many citizens warmly entertained them. Lord Luffy, my sister asked us to lead you into the royal city, but she didn't follow because she was inconvenient. Sandersonia said apologetically. Luffy waved his hand disapprovingly. Come with me to 0.8 to have a look. After Robin and Khalifa's surprised expressions, Luffy was welcomed in by everyone cheering all the way. Along the way, the National Defense soldiers and cadres looked at Luffy's strong back and whispered. Is this the savior of Lord Snake Princess? I heard that Master Snake G was cured of her serious illness, and she also fought against the curse of Gorgon's remnant soul last night, lifting the curse of Gorgon behind the three sisters. I heard he is the youngest Vice Admiral in Marine. So handsome. His body looks so strong, it would be great if he could be pulled back to have a baby. Stop making trouble, such a strong man must belong to Master Shi Ji. Hee. Robin's face was full of doubts when he heard the words, the Sea Kings that Luffy said yesterday was the remnant soul of Gorgon. Advertisement Chapter 220. 100 Years of Blank History. Advertisement. Luffy came to the palace. Hancock sat lazily on the chair made of the compass of the giant snake Camie, looking a little weak. The moment he saw Luffy, Hancock got up excitedly and threw himself into Luffy's arms. I haven't seen you for such a long time, I want to die as a concubine. The surrounding cadres and ministers stared wide-eyed, looking at Hancock in disbelief, who had never seen such a small woman like her. Ahem, Luffy coughed dryly as he looked at the people around him whose eyes were about to pop out. I'm here to pick you up to naval headquarters. Hancock looked up at the 18th level beauty Luffy with a flushed face, and said softly, if this is your wish, I will go with you to Cape Tianya. Granny Nu looked at Hancock who had lost herself in shock. Snake Princess decided to go to the government without hesitation. Know that the place where Hancock was imprisoned was Mariajoy. Luffy stroked Hancock's hair affectionately. Don't worry, you go directly to naval headquarters with me instead of Mariajoy. Hancock raised her head in astonishment. She was ready to face the place of nightmare again, and Luffy seemed to know what she had experienced. She confirmed that she did not tell 14 Luffy yesterday. Luffy watched the high-level officials of Daughter Kingdom gathered here, and then said to Hancock, I am here this time, not just to let you go to naval headquarters to join the war. Everyone looked at Luffy strangely, not knowing what he meant. Luffy smiled slightly. I hope Hancock quits Shichibukai. Nani? Granny Nu was shocked. Impossible. Once Hancock leaves Shichibukai, our Nine Snakes Island will become an ordinary country. Mastering the marine that sails in the monster sea will definitely plunge us into a war of. But Hancock didn't hesitate at all. I do. Looking at Hancock who was so docile, Luffy has to say that being liked by such a woman is simply the most dream partner. Luffy signaled Granny Nu not to get excited. It's not to make you go back to pirates. Advertisement. Once Snake Princess quits Shichibukai, won't she become an ordinary pirate country? Everyone asked strangely. I want you all to join the marine after the summit war. Everyone looked at Luffy in surprise. Is there any difference between Shichibukai and marine? Of course, because I will destroy Shichibukai with my own hands next time. As a righteous marine, there is no need to rely on pirates to maintain the order of the sea. You Nine Snake pirates are simply the national army, and the plunder is nothing more than a foreign war, and it is not aimed at civilians at sea. This is a means of survival for you who are in the calm belt and cannot trade with the outside world. It is unknown whether the previous behavior. After you join the marine, I will hire you female warriors from Nine Snake Island as mercenaries to form an elite marine to fight against the New World pirates. For trade, warships will also be arranged to help you connect Nine Snake Island with the outside world. With your combat effectiveness, you don't need to rely on plundering to obtain resources at all. The reason why Nine Snake Island is a pirate country is precisely because the only ships they can go to sea are pirate ships pulled by giant sea snakes. The rest of the citizens could not communicate with the outside world through the calm belt, which formed the unique pirate culture of Jew Snake Island. If Luffy solves the traffic problem of Jew Snake Island, then Daughter Country doesn't need to rely on being a pirate to plunder supplies to survive. Granny Nu frowned and looked at Luffy carefully. Wouldn't the world government approve of you doing this? The purpose of Shichibukai's initial establishment was to balance the conflict between marine and pirates, or more like a third-party force supported by the world government to reconcile the protracted war between marine and pirates, and what Luffy did was fundamentally from the world government poached the wall. And what good will it do you? Granny Nu asked Luffy seriously. She could tell that Luffy was not on the same line as world government at all. Luffy found a comfortable position and sat down, holding Snake Girl in his arms. Tell you a story. On the red line at the top of the world, there used to be a God's kingdom. There are many powers with the God's name gathered here, and outsiders collectively call them devil fruit. And those who are responsible for guarding them are guarded by a group of Sky Island people named Lunaria for generations, so that those who use this power will not be able to succeed. Advertisement. After the war, the kingdom headed by Joey Boye established a huge kingdom of equality and freedom. And a man named Joey Boy stepped forward, united many countries, and challenged the Lord of Darkness with the help of the three ancient weapons. He has obtained the unprecedentedly powerful power of devil fruit. The whole world is in crisis, and countless countries have become his slaves. In the end, Joey Boye didn't want the world to fall into a war of destruction again, so he chose to submit. Unfortunately, the devil fruit eaten by Joey Poi in the story seems to be the same one as the devil fruit I ate, so people always have to look forward and can't wait until the crisis comes to think about it how to respond. Everyone looked at Luffy in horror. Except for the Nefertiti family who were found to be used to give up the privileges of the celestial dragons, the descendants of the other 19 masters naturally became garbage called celestial dragons. Due to the strength of the huge kingdom, people have seen the shadow of the kingdom of gods and began to worry about the threat of this force. Celestial dragons are nothing more than a bunch of traitors who steal the country. Robin trembled even more excitedly. This is the 100-year blank history that disappeared. But in the end, a person with dark fruit appeared. He could cut off the power between people and devil fruit. The extremely strong ambition and terrifying darkness swallowed up the Lunaria tribe and the kingdom of God. You say so, Hancock. A guy named I.M. betrayed Joey Boy. He took advantage of the greed and fear of the 20 kings, and with his immortal body, manipulated the power called national treasure to attack Joey Boy's giant 380 kingdom war. Luffy couldn't help but kiss Hancock on the head, who was curled up in his arms like a kitten. In the end, the 20 kingdoms that once fought together established a new center of power, moved to Mariajoy, where the kingdom of God once lived, and formed an organization called World Government. The two sides broke out an epic decisive battle. In the end, Joey Boye narrowly won and stopped the world of darkness. The King of Darkness died in battle, and his power was redistributed into the sea. Luffy looked at the angry crowd and smiled slightly. Who knows, it's just a story. Luffy slowly spoke out the previous life's speculation about the blank 100-year history. Advertisement.